And let's get started. Says high value men are overrated.
In the femininity space online, the buzzwords high value man and high value woman are tossed around a lot. We tend to value what men find attractive because we know that we need to embody at least some of those things in order to attract an attractive quality man and maintain a healthy
She seems so sweet. She just seems like a sweetheart.
marriage. I receive tons of comments from women who say that we shouldn't care about what men find attractive, and they'll literally say, and I quote, "You're focusing on all this femininity stuff, but your husband will still cheat on you, and I bet I could get him to cheat on you." Firstly, I always think project much, and then I think, okay, well, come back to me in 30 years and tell me how that worked out for you, and then I promptly delete the comment. So I completely understand why this...
So it's interesting. I have such nuanced views on cheating, okay? But I actually don't think all men cheat. I think some men are very loyal. I think there are men that don't cheat in sexless marriages because, like, there are men that have a sense of like duty and respect and like honor and just wouldn't do that. But I do think if you go for certain guys, you should know what you're getting yourself into. That's my opinion.
Community emphasizes being of high value, but I actually think pursuing high value men is overrated. People, of course, have different definitions of high value man, but the most prevalent definition I see online is a guy just being an above average earner with a high status. That's essentially how Kevin Samuels, may God have mercy on his soul, and the Red Pill Manosphere Collective talk about.
There is a big debate right now on what a high value man is. That is so funny. There is such a big debate.
High value men. In fact, Kevin Samuels had 6 specific factors that he used to qualify a man as high value. If you're a high value man, then you, according to him, have to 1, make at least $120,000 a year, 2, for at least the past 3 to 5 years, 3, have group acceptance from other high-value men.
So,
4,
hey folks, what's going on? I'm so glad you could join me today.
As a high-value man,
We're just getting ready to dive on in. Today's topic, bad behaviors. And how we've kind of just glossed over a lot of them.
Very little to do with
and we kind of don't care anymore.
A lot of money, what that essentially signals is, unless he's a nepo baby, is that he's competent, he's disciplined, he's a
But stand by. What you're listening to right now is Bluey Brothers.
I'm not here at all to say that you should want a man who is incompetent, undisciplined, and lazy and makes no money at all. What I am saying is that
the album
you are
is
an average young woman,
stiff
in your 20s
for
or
the
30s
elders.
and are looking for men in the same age group. There is an infinitesimally small chance that you're going to find a man in your age group who makes...
Thank you. And this is why the simps are the worst. Because the simps will tell women, just raise your standards.
Bad behaviors. Stand by, folks. You know what time it is. You know where you're at.
But when
it's time to look up. I'm AronMSound. Stick around. We'll be up in just a moment.
It's a bit disingenuous because not everybody can win the lottery. And most people are normal. And I think a lot of people come at what I say and act like I'm trying to say it in a way that's mean to women. But in all honesty, I think I'm nicer than these simps that lie to women every day and tell them that, and other women, honestly, that lie to women and say that we're all going to win the lottery, when it's just not the case. Most women are going to have to work in marriage. Most women aren't going to get to be housewives, unfortunately. And does an average guy still deserve submission? I would say yes.
6 figures, let alone a wholesome man who wants to be monogamous who makes 6 figures. The average 25-year-old man in the US, at least, makes $40,000 a year. The average 35-year-old makes $60,000 a year, and this is probably before taxes. Only about 10% of men in the US, at least, make 6 figures. 10%. And you better believe that most of those men are not that young. It takes time to get that kind of income. They're probably at least 45 years old, if not in their 50s. And unless you want to have a pretty large age gap marriage, I'm talking 10 to 20 years, which most people...
You know, that would be a good question to ask. Would you rather have a guy making $40,000 in his 20s or $100,000 in his 40s or 50s? I'd pick the guy in his 20s, in my opinion. Because it's like... Because my dad always said this, because the red pill's big on age gaps, right?
Oh, Pearl will
And I
take the
spoke
guy
to
in
my
his
dad
20s
about
because
this.
she'll take anything.
He said, like, women
Apparently.
live longer than
I'm
men,
allegedly.
so if you have too
Just
big of
saying.
an age gap,
Bad
you're gonna live
behaviors.
the second half of your life alone.
Even on
for
me.
a lot of it. And you buy time.
Seriously, though.
Don't want because they want to experience all the different seasons of life together, then you should probably consider more regular so-called average men. I see a lot of women online pining after the top, not even 10% of male earners, but the top 5%, men who make at least $200,000 a year. Women who think that being with a regular dude is settling and complacent. I am not saying that money is an awful thing. I'm not saying every height-earning man is unwholesome. However, if money is the main focus or the highest goal, then it becomes disordered. If you're a young woman who wants to get married, start a family while you're still young, and you want a man who's also young, then you should not base your standards off of what the Red Pill and Manosphere Collective call high value. There is no mention of character, no mention of piety, and if you do not take those things into consideration, then there will definitely be pitfalls. Firstly,
Oh,
when you're
yes,
with this
pitfalls,
kind of
considerations,
powerful man,
ideas. Goodness gracious, what does all this really mean? Well, as you hear me running my own self in the background, it's really about how we behave with one another, what we expect from one another, what we expect out of the world. And I think we should make examples. I think we should talk about the examples. I think we should talk about what's acceptable and what's not in general. And sometimes that can be, obscured because of the things that we're looking at, the people we're hanging out with, the concepts that we've been sold since childhood. Oh my goodness, is my coffee not in here? Hold tight.
Ready to pursue his American dream. His belly's getting thick, so you know he's eating well. I always was intrigued by the way that he smelled. Overthroat, collared shirt, and gold chain. High-end French cologne, I could tell. I took my car to Jack, said, can it be fixed? He took one look, he sifted through red sheet. I make it look nice, give you good price. Go around the corner and get yourself a slice. I came back later that afternoon. There was Jack, he was still on the phone. Your car's not ready, you better go home. I'm waiting for the part, I'll call you when I know. Walk, belly,
Cologne.
talking on a
Cellular phone.
living the American
Dreams.
dream. So it seems,
So it seems.
maybe I should have stayed home. Someone broke into the van, we know just where to go. We take it to Jack, cause we know that he's a pro. Our shit was ripped off, now we're really feeling awful. Where we're going to go down for a solid falafel. I came back later that afternoon, there was Jack, he was still on the phone. Your car's not ready, you better go home. I'm waiting for the part, I'll call you when I know. Walk,
Belly. Cologne. Speaking of bad ideas. Bellies and cologne. Your belly does not need cologne. Maybe it does.
dream, or so it seems.
Maybe it's the American dream.
Maybe he should have stayed home.
Probably should have stayed home. Stand by. We've got a slightly different kind of show today, folks. I'm so glad you could be here. I'm AronMSound. You know where you're at. You know what's going on. It's almost time to look up.
Well, Jack said when we get back to town, he would give us a tune-up while his belly's getting thicker by the minute from the food that his wife makes for him every day in a sack lunch. I mean, Peruski and a
there's a higher risk that he's going to be unfaithful, as he may have a bigger ego, and there's no shortage of beautiful women who actively want to be with him for the same reasons. And when a worldly man
This is a really based take.
has beautiful women throwing themselves at him, being
Well, I think most men would have a hard time. Beautiful women were throwing themselves at him.
faithful to one woman is more difficult and less enticing. I'm not saying these beautiful women are causing men to sin. When you sin, it is entirely your fault. But there are more temptations surrounding high-value men, which is why men in the Manosphere and Red Pill Collective weirdly try to reason that it's not unethical for a high-value man to cheat or to have a high body count.
So it's interesting. Kevin Samuels had a different The reason that the red pill, I'd have to make a whole video on this, why a lot of red pill channels will say to sleep with a lot of women is
Did she
it's
just
more of a
quote Kevin
response
Samuels
to women,
again?
because most women don't.
I'm
the average age of
uncomfortable
first
for her
marriage is
bad
like
behavior.
28 to 32, roughly, in Western countries, right? And most women at that age don't want a virgin. And they want a guy that's more sexually experienced. And the issue that guys are getting into is that, the
Well,
women
the Young
that they're
Turks might be
speaking to want a
getting
guy that's
sued
more
since the nurse
experienced. So
actually
it's more
paid
like
for
a
the city
response.
bikes. Yes, bad
And it's also
behavior's
like
gone
an
wrong.
unequal exchange
We were
of
just talking
value
about that
those men
earlier
are
in the
getting, because
Discord.
The women aren't virgins,
Stand by,
but
folks.
yet
We're
they
about to
want
get into it.
their husband,
And I'm
like,
coming
because
at it from a different
traditionally, the
angle.
women
I'm
used to have
actually
to bring
showing
purity,
something I know
youth,
very little about that I've
in
only
shape,
watched
et cetera, like
individually
to the guy.
because
And the
of
men
the
would have
nurse
protection
scenario.
and provisioning.
But it's something
The
completely
high-value
different.
men are
And it's in the title
protection
today.
and provisioning,
So
but they're
stand
still not getting
by.
virgin wives.
Stand by.
So
Folks,
in a
you
way,
know
it's
what
not
time it is.
an equal exchange of value.
Check
because
this out.
The man is supposed to comprise on his mating strategy, which is screwing as many girls as possible. And the woman isn't bringing what she's supposed to bring to the table. So, I'm not pro cheating. I've spoken so much about cheating. They always misconstrue my thoughts on it, but I'm not pro cheating. I don't think cheating is good. However, if you date Jason Derulo, I think you should expect to get cheated on. That's my opinion.
I'm not saying most high-value men cheat, but there is a higher proportion of...
Hey, what's happening, folks?
even if
Everything's
you
working
watch
wonderfully.
that
Welcome to the
kind
show.
of
I'm
men,
AronMSound, and this is the show known as Look Up, the Remix, where I interject myself into a conversation that not a single sane person asked me to be involved in, and thereby extending it and trying to take it somewhere where maybe folks didn't intend it to go. In any case, today, what were we talking about? We're talking about bad behaviors. And the video running behind me is just a mild suggestion of bad behavior. It's just a conversation between two folks who are taking things in all kinds of directions that maybe they're not healthiest. Pearl's got one view, this lady's got another, and both of them seem kind of based. Yeah, true, but really, is it? I mean, are what we talking about in general about these super morality plays of validation? Or are we really talking about interpersonal skill? Are we talking about morality of the colloquial, meaning like right here with me and you? I'm trying to figure this out too. So here, I'm gonna put the call in the chat right now, because today's the day I'd really like to hear from you folks about bad behaviors, what we think of as bad behaviors, what we see as bad behaviors. Did that dump me out? Hold on a second. Let me just make sure. No, I've still got to join my own meeting and put the call up in there. Yeah, let's choose that one. Let's not choose the JPT meeting. No, because we might end up talking to, well, what time is it over there right now? Oh, we'd get her if it rang, or whoever else is closest to the Zoom. No, as a matter of fact, I will stay the participant, and I'm going to invite you guys. Oh, look at that! It all works! Isn't that amazing? When I'm not being totally run into the ground through a hack? Yeah. Alright. So we know it works, and let me invite you all into the call. By the way, Kaylin James, new face. The Young Turks are probably going to get in trouble for that. Also, your comrade Mike TV has an outstanding child support payment to pay off. What does that have to do with my show today? Bad behaviors? Okay, call in. Let's talk about it. I don't know anything about that. You have some receipts for that, and you want to call them up? We can get them on the show and talk about it. I also would have to know, how would you know something about child support payments? Because that's not generally public, unless it's something that did go public. But slander and defamation. Slander is when it's untrue, but defamation is an intent thing. So just be careful. If you want to talk about bad behaviors and the comparisons, we can talk about it. But I would warn you that since since it's a thing, it's a thing. So anyways, here's the chat. Here's the chat. I'm about to send it out to y'all, and I'll pin it. And let me just, it's real hard to do because I'm typing on small stuff. Call on in. Call on in. And yeah, send. Ooh. All right, let me see here. Do I particularly need that now? Well, probably not, but we'll check it out. So today we're talking about bad behaviors, folks, and it's one of these things where I generally, I forgive people for a lot of stuff. I forgive people for their indiscretions, for the mistakes they make if they try to make it right. But bad behavior when it's just flagrant. Bad behavior when it hurts other people and you don't make amends, or you don't try to change in yourself. These are the things that I think as adults we need to talk about. Or just doing something ridiculous time after time after time, and suddenly you've got a free speech here. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I mean, we can free speech. This is actually a topic we can talk about. If you find that there's a bad behavior, let's talk about this and let's weigh it out. I think some of these conversations need to be had, and I mean, you can use whatever anecdote you want as far as that's concerned. But let me take her off the screen. She's not really bad. She's not really a bad actor here. Her intent is good. Her message may not be, and she's talking, and the person who's reviewing this also doesn't have a great intent message. So let's go to somebody that we can clearly talk about, who's called iDubbbz, and I didn't know who the frick this person was. I didn't know at all, to be frank with you. I have no clue who this person is, iDubbbz. And why should I know this person? I don't know. If I can be honest with you, I don't know why I should know this person. The only reason I think that I should know this person is, the fact that they loved, apparently, it was a big thing, that they felt that it was okay to drop the N-bomb on a regular basis, apparently. I have come to learn. Now, that is anecdotal. That is also something that was reported to me, something I've heard from other people. So, I'm going to let him speak for himself. And the point that I'm trying to make with this first video, and why I'm starting it here, is because this is a little community leader. Maybe not a leader, but yeah, feel free to call in, Kaylin. I would love to talk to somebody. And by the way, you would earn your badge if you call in, and you're reasonable. We can have a conversation. That's how Moby can tell you that in general here, everybody gets a mod badge. So as you can see, I'm hovering over you now. It makes it fair, but since you're brand new, I can't give one right away. But I'm happy to, so long as you're reasonable. And if you hang out in the show, by the end of the show, you'll have a mod badge. And then you can be like the Wild West. Because the good guys, the bad guys, the middle road, everybody's pretty much the same anyways, right? Am I? Do most people in the world have an intent that's malicious? Or is it done through benign means? Meaning, is it something that people don't realize they're being bad about? Huh. I would like to have this conversation because I'm not sure. I used to think I was sure, but now I'm not so sure. Why? Well, as I've gotten older, there are a lot of people who confuse me, frankly. Not in a bad way. Not like, oh, I don't know what's going on. No. I mean, I get confused in the fact that I see them as good. I don't see people as evil without malicious intent. And I find quite often nowadays there's this puritanical or youthful adolescent sense that somehow people are just evil for associating with others. And as somebody who is associated with some real questionable folks who at their core were kind to others, but in their lifetime they had done terrible things. Now, can I disassociate them? Vegan. By the way, that's not my code. That just came with the thing, but I've left it because it's so stupid. I'm going to admit you on in, and if you have a camera, I don't have the call-in actually attached at the moment because I tend to make sure that the camera's good, and you're joining right now. So as soon as your camera comes in, and I just confirm that there's no nudity, because gosh knows, the last thing I need is just a big old dangle hanging, or a dongle, or a dungle, whichever, any of them. They're joining right now, and we'll be finding out. I'm guessing this is Kaylin, yeah, you should be joining right now. It should be trying to add you. If I have to do it by phone, for some reason it says still joining. And hold on, let me pull it up on the screen. Just promise me you're not going to be naked. Please don't be naked. Yes. Come back to me. Zoom meeting. Where is it? Maybe I need to reopen that portion of it. Nope. Oh, it might be hiding. Is it hiding behind something? No, it's there. All right, so, oh, it's having you a problem. Oh, you know what? Try without the passcode. If you just hit the link, you don't need the passcode. It should just take you right there. And if it asks for a passcode, I'll need to take that off. I apologize. I don't know why I would have done that. Anyhow, let's get into the show, and I'll hang out for you. I'm waiting for you, and I may need to re-add the application. Let me actually do that right now, because this is gonna drive me a little bonkers. Oh, that was the audio for the application. Of course it was. Of course it was. Because this is half my show, by the way, is you watching me deal with the wackiness. which happens. It really does. It happens more often than not. But let's let me add the call-in lines here. First I'm gonna add the audio so that when you show up, you're here. Yeah, if it needs the password, check that out. If not, I may have to reset it for you, and I'll just re-log in or something. In any case, so what is the point today about the bad actors, the bad behaviors, to make the comparatives between these things? And let me just double check the invite. Is the same. Yeah, general invite. So the meeting passcode, you should just be able to log on in. Just log on, just go right on in there. Just get right on in. Right in. Sorry. Okay, yeah, absolutely. And if you have to, just let me know if you try it later on and it doesn't work. So I've left her up there with a bad look already. Let's look at a white guy who's generally just not the coolest human, and he's admitting it. And part of that, by the way, part of this, what I'm sharing with you, and what's so important about this.
Casual racism is still racism. Casual bigotry is still bigotry. And, I said a lot of things that I look back at and I cringe now, and I'm like, that is
he cringes now.
An awful thing to say. It doesn't
you think?
matter what my intentions are. Like, if I'm hurting people.
Aha, if I'm hurting people.
And, who the fuck knows what my intentions are? Like,
Well, you do, and you're telling us right now.
Jokiness,
oh, thank you very much, Moby.
So
I appreciate it. I promised everybody I was going to get a haircut, and it was about time. I was looking, I saw the last video, and I was looking like a near homeless man. I was starting to look like the crazy nut that I sound like when I'm getting really on it. So,
and videos where I
gotta bring legitimacy. And I don't know if you noticed, but I purposely asked the lady who's been cutting my hair for many, many, many years to give me a fashy haircut. She said, okay. And I said, fashy. And I took some pictures out and I said, like this. And she said, oh, because, by the way, I don't know if you know, folks, I like to own the counter of opposition. I like to take what's being owned by the bad guys and walk around with it proudly. Why? Because nothing is more palpably powerful, juicy, like just a big old orange to your face pie holes. Speaking of face pie holes, I don't know if anybody noticed, I have a really stupid thing. It's called Treat Space. And if you ever are like watching me and you're like, let's send that guy some food. You can actually do that. It's so absurd. That's why I put it up there. Because it's like, I'm hoping that someday that it just gets really absurd and I just end up with like 8 pounds so I can take it off. But anyways, I would actually take the extra food to the guys who stand around the tree down the way. So anyways, and when you ask like, what does he mean by that? I mean like literally they're just guys who stand around the tree down the way. And I'm going to leave it there. That's not bad behavior. They're actually really all very cool. And anyhow, that's a totally different side story. I'm not going to get into that. Someday I will cover my hometown. And it's a very interesting story. But anyways, talk about bad behaviors. Oh, Lord. So let's take a look at this fool iDubbbz. We are right now. And I say this fool because if you don't know who he is, this is a gamer. This is a Twitch user. This is a, let's see, what do we call him? This is a dude. This dude right here. Don't know a lot about him except for what he's described as of himself. And folks, when I say this, I generally, I'm all about letting people describe themselves. And then I take what they say at face value. But one of the things that's important to know about this guy,
apathy and I don't know, a lot of like cruelty as well. Like, some of the videos I've made have been very not edgy. I don't think they some of these videos were edgy. I think they were just outright cruel. So I don't want people to, get it confused about, where I stand. I have made some cruel, hurtful content, and I need to acknowledge that, and I'm really sorry that it's taken me this long to acknowledge.
This is astonishing and cool, actually. Okay, so we start there. This is amazing, right? If you're face value, you're going, is this guy, like, doing the thing that Aaron talks about all the time, self-admitting, coming forward, and being more than less in this situation? Yeah, he is. Wow, who is this person? Why is he doing that? Huh. That's very interesting. And let me just ask you this. Well, do we draw the line here? Do we say that when somebody self-admits that suddenly they're okay? I've been thinking about this. So this is where I keep asking. When and for what do we let apologies lie? When and for what do we let people grow? When and for what do we allow people to have changed? When do we let the perspective be the answer to the situation? And when, if at all, do we accept that somebody is lost or that what they've done is beyond the pale? Because I don't know anymore. And when I say I don't know, it's not that I lost my ethics or my morality or my sense of what's right and wrong. No. I don't know because I'm seeing in society that this line has been not just blurred across the board about everything and anything. That I've heard clinical conversations about interpersonal things. I've heard interpersonal conversations about clinical things. I've heard so much counter double speak, thought speak, fascist concepts being called authoritarian concepts overlapping into fascist concepts, concepts of direct interpersonal relationships being boiled down to nothing but anger. So at this point, I want to know what's acceptable and what's not. I think I have the right, like everybody else. And if you're going to say, well, if you don't know, you should really know. But you know what? That exceptionalism is part of the problem. We go through life making these adjustments quite commonly and most often. And why do we make these adjustments? Because we grow. We grow emotionally, we grow empathetically, we grow, and empathetically meaning we putting ourselves in other people's shoes, we grow in perspective, we grow in experience. People start out maybe hedonistically and become stoic or ascetic, which are the words we learned this week, right? If you were here with me. But do we? And do we allow others to do this? So this is the premise of my show today, is to explore this a little bit and to see where and when and what's acceptable. So if you want to call in, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, because this is all kind of associated to what you were talking about here in the chat. And if that's the case, let's hear about it. Let's talk about it. But then if he's not streaming, I got to call up Mike, because he's involved as well. So, that would be something there. And I think it's important that we talk about it openly. And I tend not to like to talk about somebody I know without getting them involved. Oh, and he's live. He's live. So that's not going to happen right now. Maybe it will. I don't know. Maybe he'll call for his show and we'll do a double show. I gather you're double timing and you're over at his show. Trolling? Maybe? I don't know. It's up to you. So let's talk about bad behaviors and iDubbbz. So what he just said, we should be forgiving him, right? Am I getting him in? No, I'm not. And, the world went blank.
He was on, and I'm not. I'm a human. I'm a real human who makes mistakes, and I make a different set of mistakes than the people I was making videos on, but it doesn't matter. I don't think anyone deserves that level of cruelty or hate. It's also indoctrinated a lot of people into thinking that this is an okay way to behave, and it's not. It's super irresponsible.
It's indoctrinated
and
people
shitty.
into an idea that it's an
about my
okay
ability
way to behave. Why would he say that? Why would he say that it's an okay way to behave? Who would say that? What is that really about? Oh, because he's online. He's showing children how to behave based off of his actions. Lita, what's happening? Welcome. So glad to have you here. And by the way, I think we're going to end up with a blank screen today, because for some reason my charger is not charging. So it's funny. There's always something. It's always something. Not to mention that afterwards, I do have Eva the AI stories tonight at 9 p.m. on Twitch, folks. If you want to see the reverse of this entire thing and hear what Eva has to say in complete totality, that's at 9 p.m. So, Lita, what you've joined us for, and thank you so much for the haircut comment, because I was just saying a little bit earlier, I did get a haircut, and I asked my barberess of many, many, many years to give me the old fashy cut so that I could own, because I was looking pretty hippie. So let me just get this. Woo! Loud. Oh, so loud. Love it. Anyways, that's for Lita. That's for Moby. And Kaylin, I'm probably... it's spelled Kalon, but I apologize. When people are like over enunciating my name when they read it in the chat, I always think it's really very funny. Aaron? I'm sorry, I don't have two A's. Do I need to put a thing, not an umlaut? What is the capitalization thing? Yeah, I don't know what the proper term for that is. Anyhow, thank you so much all for being here. As you well know, this is Look Up. I've already played the opening, but what we do here is we extend conversations and try to take them somewhere else. And today, by the way, we do have an open call-in line. You're more than welcome to join. And you should be able to just, in fact, let me just double check, because I'll do it from my phone. Opening it in the browser, just make sure I don't need a code. And it's taking me. Yep, no, it's taking me. Wah! Wah, wah. Yep. You can even do, if you play it twice, you got a dubstep. You got a dub for you. Sorry, anyhow, I do that all day long. Especially, don't give me a microphone. Don't give me a microphone. I might start playing with it. Anyhow, what are we talking about? We're talking about bad behaviors. We're talking about when we give somebody the leeway, when we give them the forgiveness, when do we give them no more room, when do we throw them out with the bathwater, when, and what? What is the line? And I start with iDubbbz, very particularly right at the front end of this conversation, because iDubbbz is just a good example of saying it for himself. And I'll bring this back and point out why.
Not edgy. I don't think they you know, some of these videos are edgy.
Oh, maybe I should turn it up too. That would help. That would help. You got to turn that up.
About, you know, where I stand. I have made some cruel, hurtful content, and I need to acknowledge that, and I'm
And
really
you've also made
sorry
content
that it's
out of
taken
focus,
me
sir.
This long to acknowledge
That's
it.
criminal.
The content I'm talking about specifically are content cop videos and videos where I was just generally criticizing people for very lackluster reasons. And
What do you mean, like that terrible, terrible mullet? It's all party in all different directions. Make a decision, sir. You mean like that? Being pejorative for no reason and childish? Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes it's jibing. Sometimes it's lampooning. But sometimes it's just frickin' mean when that's all you do. And in the gamer culture, in the WL culture, in the I got a W, brah! And that was my female version of that. It's all about being mean and who gets the... It used to be the pawns. I got you the pawns. Which, frankly, all of it is pejorative, which is fun when it's like you're on the field, you're competing, you're doing that thing when people are like rubbing up against each other. That sounded right. Rubbing each other, like poking each other, bothering each other, getting under each other's skins. That is one thing. That is one thing. But another would be, you know, to essentially, by the way, oh no, I'm trying to add the call-in line again, because I, of course, did a bunch of stupid things the other night, and now I'm oh yes, there it is. There it is. Michael Haley. Hey, Michael, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm not familiar with Michael, but I'll welcome on in. I give you the triple horn by, especially because Lita said hello to you. So that I mean, that's like coming into the club and having like the lady who maybe has a little investment in the club, and she's down at the corner, and you're like, why is that lady always in the bar? And she just said hi to you, so that means she knows you. Sorry. Welcome, Michael. Hi, Mr. Haley. Welcome. So, we're talking about troublesome affairs. And what are the troublesome affairs? They are people like iDubbbz. And the lines that we draw to say when it's okay, when it's not, to forgive and not to forgive. If I'm going to boil this on down. And I have to boil it down because at some point the issue does become binary, as opposed to most things. But to get there, you have a whole scale of concepts, a whole scale of ideas, right? So, you know, and correct me if I'm wrong. Phone in the line's open. Let's hear some smoke. I want to talk about this. It's all about talking about this. I'm going to be adding a Discord, by the way, folks. I'm going to be adding a separate Discord that you all can join coming up here soon. It's just a lot more stable, and I can add a lot more people in the Discord and have you in visual panels and all sorts of stuff. And also, it's a great way to get you into the Look Up Discord besides that, and it creates a community. And if you're interested in it, I'll put it up shortly. But in the next coming days, I'll actually be opening up the Discord so that we can, you know, have everybody as for the Ministry of the Flying Pig on Sundays in one space, that kind of thing. In any case, so if you're not familiar with Discord, it's actually a very interesting space for sharing ideas, sharing concepts. It's also a very dark place. It's where a lot of this language, where a lot of the behaviors gets mirrored from the video gaming culture of the WLs, bro. WLs. It's all about the WLs because I don't have any other life. And that's me talking pejoratively and rubbing someone just like, you know, what is fair? It's funny, right? Kind of funny. But it's not funny when you realize that these people really live it. And they take it very seriously, and it turns into a whole culture when somebody like this, iDubbbz, IDUBBBS, with a very, very popular YouTube channel, incredibly popular YouTube channel, starts, you know, influencing people inadvertently. And they've come to realize this as their young person. But, you know, I still have an argument with the fact that he's got to decide whether the party's in the front or party's in the back if you're going to do the mullet. You just must decide. Okay? Okay, yeah, for sure. Actually, give me 1 second, Lito. And I think that's a good call. Because I can do You know what? I'm gonna close out the Zoom meeting, and we're gonna try something. Hopefully, I won't crash my shit. Hopefully, I won't crash my shit. I'll keep the secondary Zoom line open, and I don't know if the Discord actually updated. Please excuse me if everything freezes. So that. Oh, sorry. That happens when I open my mouth. The tongue keeps flapping. So, let's hear a little more from iDubbbz while this opens up.
You know, obviously didn't have any accountability online whatsoever on my end.
Oh, awesome.
I was morally grandstanding and acting as if I am any better than
not to
any
what he
of the
said.
people
What
that
you
I was
said,
making content cop videos on. And I'm not. I'm a human. I'm a real human who
Are
makes
ya?
mistakes. And
bet you
know,
do.
I make a different set of mistakes than the people I was making videos on, but it doesn't matter. I don't.
Aha. Okay, so this is some pretty humble shit. Yeah, I mean, frankly, it's pretty humble to come out and say, well, I really effed up. And I know who I did it to, and I'm kind of similar to the things I was covering. But is it? Is it the same? If you knew all the context? Because I'm leaving the context out on purpose. I'm letting him present the context for his own defense. Because I don't know him from Adam. I've never watched his content in depth. I'm just not interested in that gaming shit. I don't want to watch you watch a video game, play a video game. It's not my thing, you know? In the sense that I'm just not... never been into that gamer culture. Not really. I like a video game. Of course, I own every gaming system known to man just to have it. Literally, because I like to collect stupid things like that. Like, yeah, electronics. Got a large vintage electronics collection just because I own them in the time period, so now they're vintage. That sucks, by the way. But that's a whole other story. In any case, point being is the ruthlessness, the lack of sensitivity is being discussed here. And, I think it's important. I think that the context is important, but I would ask the question once again, and this is Lita, Michael, Moby, Kaylin. I gather that Emily's probably coming up the line somewhere, or she's probably at Mike's show. Although Emily, who was on for like 24 hours the other day, I was like, holy mackerel. Damn, you're awesome. So, and thank you for that. This is the thing. What is the line that we draw, folks? Where does the line get drawn? How do we know what it is? And what does it look like? Where do you stop forgiving someone? Where does it become detrimental to the community to forgive someone? Where do they become detrimental to us all? And this is really the question of the era, I think, because we're starting to see a normalization of behaviors, right? Of things. I always saw the Mike TV needs to be paid. So Mike Haley says, Yahweh, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what the YH stands for. I always saw the Mike TV needs to be pay by June 26th, hence why he's telling his subs to pay so you can expose other grifters. LOL, when he is going to use the money for June 26th. So, you realize he's only charging $100 total? It's not gathered. People get their money back when the bids don't come in, and just like most other YouTubers, he's actually making... I'm just going to point out here is that's just kind of seems out of context, which is part of the conversation about bad behavior. And I'll draw the line. I'll just call it out and say that that's incorrect on so many levels. It's so much to unpack, which is a lot of this conversation going on. Is just, you want to pack in so many different concepts that may not be related or all true. So you want to make the issue complex or more complex, and then deny when it's boiled down to its roots. Or I don't know if you are, but I'm saying that it is I found that out as a very common tactic nowadays. And here we go. You can tell it's opening up because it's like locking down the other. Oh, Yeah, no, it may not let me. Oh, maybe it's just when it's opening up, because I was running it the other day and I already had it open. So, oh, there it goes. All right. We're moving again. And by the way, if you didn't realize, what I've got going on in the background is people doing backflips. Here, I'll pull the internet out so you can see the... And if you're ever wondering, like, where these visuals come from, I have spent a lot of time in my life doing weird visuals for, you name it, artists, myself, advertisement. I've spent a lot, I'm not actually an editor. I've turned into a video artist over time. And in most cases, these are actually images or videos that I've taken or that I've used from other stock footage friends. In this case, you're looking at two different sets of videos. One is a stock footage a friend of mine took, is cut against actually another piece that I took, and then the window frame, that is actually the natural color of the window frame, and I believe that's in Chicago at the airport. Anyway, that's literally phone footage. So, if you're ever wondering, like, what the hell are we looking at half the time? The theme is doing mental backflips, really. And trying to figure out how we interpolate these pieces. How do we mix this information? How do we come to a spot that makes sense? And maybe Discord will be giving me a hard time. I don't know. Hold on, let's check it out. I'm going to copy paste this in the chat. Yeah, it might give me a hard time. It's probably because it's still opening. That's what's going on. So, I apologize. Oh, system booting. Oh, that's why. It's literally trying to update it. Of course. Always. Always. It's always something, right? Anyhow, the topic at hand is really about somebody like iDubbbz and whether or not, hey, look at that! So I'm going to put up the lookup server once I can actually get it to let me back at things. And, oh yeah. And just to avoid any issues, I would suggest let's keep in VC or voice chat for the show as opposed to video today, because I don't know the extent of how far we can get into it. In any case, if you're already a member of the Lookup server, you can hop in. Let me just find which room I need to go to. I actually just started a new server for a think tank. Sorry, my food order came out. Oh, so, and they always miss my... Man, can we talk about that? This is one of these lines of bad behavior question of like, what do we allow? What is allowable? What is a... where are the lines that we allow for society, for our interpersonal, for our friends, for so many other things? I mean, like, and in this case, this gentleman. Like, where do we allow the forgiveness for that guy? Oh, I'm in an age-restricted channel in my own channel? That's right. Age-restricted so we can freely curse. Although, by the way, if you didn't know, Discord does have some rules. Please don't abuse the R word or, there's several different things. We might have an issue. Oh, no, it's moving. Okay, cool. I said okay.
Serves that level of cruelty or hate. It's also
it's having
indoctrinated a lot of.
So iDubbbz basically is known mostly as
Thinking that this is an okay way to behave, and it's not. It's super irresponsible and shitty. I am very insecure about my ability to create interesting content or like entertain. It's gotten better over the years.
So yeah, as
but it's
Discord
something
moves
that
up in the background,
have struggled.
He's gonna say basically it's something he's struggled with.
with constantly.
Oh my God, Lita!
And it's one of the
I'm gonna stop the
reasons
footage for this
why
one. You just hit a nerve. Can I just talk? I'm about to turn into
kept making
a white
this
lady
hurtful
right
content.
now. I'm going to talk about Karen. I will call your manager over that shit. I'm kidding. I won't call the manager. I'll just sulk and be angry and think to myself, I should have called the freaking manager about that shit. Horchata is key to tacos. Period. I will stand on this hill. Sans horchata. And I will die on that hill. Excuse me. I will unalive on that hill without my horchata. Angry about it. Because that cinnamon rice water is living la vida. Okay? Don't get me started. I will talk about... this is... Lita, you have just hit one of the greater crimes of the modern day. People don't understand. People do not understand. Want to talk about mental prisons? I don't want to minimize all the rest of the issues here, but I'm going to minimize them right away because of horchata. Without the horchata, the taco, well, it's just going to burn your ass all day the next day, and the horchata is the only damn thing other than maybe some rice is going to help you. So let's just move on. I apologize. I got caught up. Anyways.
You know, I ended up pivoting it into other things because I
Oh no, you don't drive?
like innately. But it's still something that I struggle with, and I don't want you to interpret that as an excuse, but I hope that that is relatable to other creators. Who maybe struggle with the same thing. I'm not.
Okay, here's what I struggle with. What is okay for when, and what in society is okay? And just recently we were, and you may be like, oh my God, really, Aaron? Yeah. No, I'm asking this question because I've become confused about the general acceptable level of what is, to me, naturally, observably bad behavior. Forget about calling it abuse. Forget about calling it aggression. Forget about calling it whatever you want to call it. The bad behavior is the bad behavior. And can we call it that without calling it something horrific? We can call things atrocious. We can call them abnormal. We can call them stupid. We can call them idiotic. We can call them so many things. But we started to use this language that makes people either or. And you got to stand on one side or the other. And if you're on this one side, suddenly you can't possibly be a good person, which is crazy. And by the way, Lita, that is a crime. If I knew you personally, I would send an Uber. I'd send an Uber over there to go pick up the horchata separately, just to be like, excuse me. So there's a lady out there who's incredibly angry about a missing horchata. Criminal acts, folks. Anyhow, I'm opening up. The Discord is open. It is now family friendly. It's not family friendly. How does the lookup server not have an image right now? And the construct, I'm going to copy and paste. Oh, that's because I put the new security measures on there. Anyhow. Oh, I gotta do it. Oh, what am I thinking? I gotta do it in some place I can reach you guys. Hold on. Snarf! If you don't know what Snarf is, you're too young. I'm sorry. And I'm jelly. I'm jelly because you're so young that you don't know what Snarf is. Anyhow. So, bad behaviors by iDubbbz. Now, I've been leading up to this because I'm going to let him say it. I've been holding it off real slowly. What's up with iDubbbz? He seems pretty cool, right? It's just such a bad stuff. He's a gamer. He's pretty cool. He's fine. He'll be fine. Really? Is he fine? Is he okay? Is he gonna be? Is this something where really he's just dancing around stuff? He's on the dance floor dancing around? I kind of think so, because there's more to this story that we're not getting. So I want to ask you, when do we forgive people? And that's why I'm pulling up the invite right now. I'm going to copy the link, and I'm going to put it in Discord. And then, actually, let me find the exact best room to come into. Only kindness, clear the beef, only solutions. Let's bring everybody into the only solutions room. I think that's the best call, and then I'll pull it up here. So only solutions, and let me get the invite copy. I'm gonna open up. Sorry, folks. I should have done this earlier, but good idea, Lita. Thank you for actually saying we should do this. And then call. It's no longer call me. It's call me. I'm gonna write call me, because it can be both me and me at the same time, and it's much less. You get a direct line in, and you'll be right in the correct room. And let me set this up so that I can actually pull the room up and close that off. And now people who happen to be wandering by. Oh, nope, I'm not in the Wix server. That's where, if you're ever wondering where I'm at after hours, there's like 3 servers I'll generally be in. And I'll tell you, the one that you most, if you want to find me having a like a positive conversation or getting to the bottom of something. All right, only solutions, authenticating, and oh yeah, there I am. There's my audio. It's open, and let me go to the room so I can pull it up. Yeah, there's the room, and let me pull it up in the OBS. This is exciting. This is a first for us, folks. New shit, doing new stuff. Let's do it in the same thing that I was doing before. So that's oh, where's the call? Did I change the call? No, that's the internet, that's the iPad, that's the camera, that's the, oh my goodness. Yeah, I have so many. If you guys saw how many things. Oh, I should probably repin this. So I gotta unpin that one. I gotta unpin the other message, and I'm gonna pin this one. Sorry, so that it's just easier to get there. Even though I have large thumbs and it doesn't want me to. There we go. Pin that message. Don't go to that channel. Did I pin it? No. Gosh. My thumbs are very large, folks. And if you're like, well, what's going on here? It's because, yeah, pinning this is becoming an issue. What is going on? There it is. Oh, God. These thumbs are twice the size of my head, you can see. In length and girth, almost. I mean, they're at least half the length, half the girth of my head, so. Anyhow, a lot of crimes going on today. Application audio. And we're going to go, and we're going to call this one, Discord. So, by the way, welcome to my Discord. If you're joining in there right now, I thank you so much for joining. You can just use it for this, or you can hang out and find Discord, which is, it's an amazing space for a lot of different stuff. And I would urge you to explore, because there's lots of great conversations. If you're ever wondering where the debate bureau panels are happening, or you want to go chase down some of the arch nemesis and darknesses that are out there, they're there. They're definitely there, and I can point you to them, although I wouldn't go there if I were you, just because it's not worth it on your soul and your spirit and your mind. It's really not. It's fucked. But that's beside the point. The good things about the place are that it gets people together. It gives people a space to really look at one another. And hold on a second. Are you not going to show me that panel? Really? Maybe it's you're not going to show me the whole panel? Oh, it doesn't want to show me panel. We'll definitely get the audio in. So, and once you're in here, by the way, as soon as you're in. You're in. Like, the moment you're in that room, and you're here with us. So just know, that's a thing. Especially once I get the, want this visual up, which is, let me see here. Oh, I know why I'm not seeing it, because it's just the audio right now. Derp. And let me make sure the audio capture, it says, what's really funny is on this, I can only see a couple letters in the panel, and it says disco. I like that. Let's leave the disco on. Monitor and output. Monitor only. That should be fine. And yeah, because it'll pass through. That's great. Let me get the visual up so you can see who shows up. Hi, everybody. Welcome. What are we talking about today? We're talking about bad behaviors. Why do I have iDubbbz up there? Because he's just about to explain to you. I pushed us past the Azure. I think we're at the end of the Azure spheres, right? Am I wrong? Like the spheres are just like kind of tightening up, and they're just becoming bouncy balls. If you're like, what the fuck is he talking about? I'm talking about how I will just hang until everybody's in the room so we can talk about this shit. Okay, so the audio's there. Now, did I do the call? No. I haven't done the call. There's just so much stuff in here. There's so much stuff. Oh my God. Window capture. And I'm going to go to existing, call in, window capture. And it's no longer that, it's only Solutions Discord. Yay, look at that shit. Now, folks, now not only are you behind the chat, right over here, and I'm gonna slim it on down, but now we can like see you. You can see when you light up. If you turn your camera on, you'll be able to see yourself. This is great. We can put a lot of people in the Discord right now, and you can actually watch this. You can share that. It's what a great thing. Anyways, okay, iDubbbz, dude, what's over on the other side here? Oh, do I have more than one of these? Hold on, I do. The call in. Oh, I already had a call in. So now I've just shown you all of my channels. All right, well. By the way, the stuff down at the bottom, that's waiting for you folks. I'm alone in the room. I'm alone in that room. It's okay though. I'm fine. I'll be okay. Yeah, I'm fine. If the new people are like, what the fuck is this show about? Well, first and foremost, I don't know if you realize this, but I drag this shit out like you would never believe. Why do I drag this shit out? Because it's a conversation. Because we're sitting here hanging out. This is more of a club, if they didn't tell you. And then we get to the solutions. We get to some ideas. We provide assistance and support. Just like how Lita's talking about the freaking crime of the century, frankly. Lita, I'm angry for you. I want to order some horchata just to not have it show up, just so I can be quite as angry, because that's effed up. By the way, I don't know if you know this, but I eat hearts. And is it not showing me hearts? Am I not connected? Hold on. Oh, there they are. I guess it won't show me my own hearts. Or are those mine? Yeah, those are mine. The occasional, I hate to say I eat horn. That'd be awkward. I also eat hundreds. Or my bills do. That's my own problem though, apparently. Okay, so let's bring actually, you know what, let's clean this up, because this is the first time I've ever used this. So let me oh no, that's the wrong one. Why did you take me over to the second camera? Which, by the way, I've added another camera. I don't know if you guys know this, but just because I want to share it with you, and it's totally still dragging it on out, which is part of the fun of this whole dang thing. If you're like, you know, why did I do this? Why did I do this to myself? Because you want to trust me with your entertainment value. Trust me. No, for real. We do learn things, just like how. Hello, second camera. Oh, second camera. Where are you? Oh, I'm so far out of range that I'm actually off the screen. That's amazing. Oh, I need to work on that one. That one's just not good. Okay. Yes. No, I still need to work on that camera. Sorry. It's out of place. It's out of whack. I'm OT, meaning off topic. I was trying to clean this one up, and you're literally watching tech. Let's chroma key that bad boy. Get that back to where it should be. That looks correct. Boom! Boom shaka laka laka ba. You know what I'm saying? You hear what I'm saying? Let's put that over here so you get that down below, Ski, so you can see when choosing that. See, you can even get in there and play video games and ignore me. I wouldn't want you to, but please. All right, so what are we doing? We're talking about iDubbbz to start with. Bad behavior, where we draw the lines. Who decides what? How do we sign them? How do we behave about these things? What are those lines? Where does it become okay? And where does it become not okay? What is the okay and not okay? What is prejudice and not? I mean, like, what do we forgive? What do we not forgive? This is the question. And I'm asking this because, well, essentially, folks, you know, we seem to have this kind of short-term memory, maybe, or we allow some of these younger folks to go pretty far down the rail, which I think, you know, would be fine if there weren't people hurt, and if there weren't situations like this where I would ask, is this okay?
Not confident in my ability to entertain, and I think if I had to rely on my personality to entertain people, that I wouldn't have any amount of success, and that is really hard to
He is successful, by the way.
terms with. I was being very bigoted in a lot of my videos, and I justified it because, you know, I didn't think it was too serious, and I thought that people were going to see that I had good intentions, you know, but that's so silly, you know. Casual racism is still racism. Casual bigotry is still bigotry. And, you know, I said a lot of things that I look back at and I cringe now, and I'm like, that is an
Okay, so what are we
awful thing
talking
to
about?
say.
What'd you say,
It doesn't
iDubbbz?
matter what my intentions are. Like, if I'm hurting people, I'm hurting people.
Yes.
And, you know, who the fuck knows what my intentions are? Like, sarcasm
Well, you're telling us
and,
right
like,
now.
Jokiness and jokey tone only goes so far, especially over the internet. Even in real life, that's like an impossible thing to know with 100% certainty. I've just always had this dumb philosophy that I'm not responsible for, you know, my audience and how they behave beyond what content I put out, and that's stupid. It's led to a lot of hate and a lot of bad outcomes. And I just want to make it clear that I am absolutely responsible for my audience. And you know, I guess if you want to, you know, look out for people who are red flags, it's definitely people who had my mentality that say, I'm not responsible.
No, okay, so this is the thing. What he's talking about is freely and openly and pushing, dropping the N-bomb. In Discord, on his videos, in the video games. You name it. That's what he's talking about. Is that okay? Do we forgive that? That's why I want to hear from you. At what line do we draw the line? When do we allow someone to be forgiven? When is it okay to say, white boy with the funny mullet is just a rubbing, and calling people the N-bomb as a matter of pride and prejudice is an act of bigotry? You know, he self-admits it. So do we forgive him for that? Do we allow that to be a thing? The forgiveness of that? Because he's saying he's changing? I'm asking because this is the line that we are crossing over and over and over again. And I don't really feel like I or anybody else has the individual right to say that there should be one idea. Now, it was said to me yesterday when I asked where this line is drawn for one person. They said if you do it once, you're going to do it again and again and again. And so there's never enough times. There's never not a time where you forgive. What? Oh, there's never a time where you forgive that person once you learn that they've done you wrong. I've also heard the opposite. You can keep messing up, and I'm going to keep forgiving you. Why? Because I'm an empathetic soul, and then this is the end-all, be-all of that. And, you know, the question is, it's so tiring. My God, why do they always want to say the N-word? Yes, that's a whole other thing. Why do they want to own something that has been worked out of the language specifically via catharsis for another group who had it used against them as a, not just a slur, but as a subjugation? There's a total difference in ownership. When, if I'm to say the K word, which I can't online, it's different when I say it because I'm trying to own it and make humor out of it, just like how using the N-bomb colloquially or between folks, you know, I believe that there's a general consensus that is a portion of the catharsis. Whether it's okay or not, that's for that community to decide. And I would say that the question is the line of when do we forgive, and do we forgive Squeezy Face here, who seems very earnest, right? This person seems really earnest. But this person has been dropping the N-bomb for years, being cruel like a gamer for years. Is this forgivable behavior? That's what I'm really wondering about. I'm like, what, do we just pretend that didn't exist before? That's something that's, I mean, I'm like, for real. Where is this line, folks? I am so confused by this. Because for me, if you want to know, other than the iPad just dying, so the visuals will be gone, oh, I know why it's not charging. Ha! It helps to plug these things in. Goodness gracious. See what happens? See what happens when you're having a good time and you have a cat? And now I'm down below the desk, plugging stuff in, pushing things around. Oh, sorry. Hi, God. Hi. The one thing I actually don't have a backup to. Well, I kind of do, but I'm not going to drag it. So, let's talk about the iDubbbz line. Okay, call on in, Lita. I'd like to hear about this. You're also a mother, so you have to deal with forgiveness values all the time. And, you know, so let me drag this out a little bit further with him. But one of the...
For what my audience does. I know that this apology isn't enough. I've clearly done a lot of damage.
That's why I stopped talking, because I knew he was about to say that he knows that this isn't enough. Okay. Well, you know now what happened. And is this curve of him learning, is that enough? Is that a time when we can all say, sure, I forgive you. Yeah, why not? Or do we say, no? This is where I'm confused about a lot of this stuff, because you know what I mean? Wait, it's not up to me, because this is also something that doesn't directly affect me. The language that he's using, it just affects the world around me separately. I can ignore it because I have some privileges, obviously, but some people can't ignore it because they might be in the middle of it. So it's more affecting to them. So this is where I am starting to wonder, should we just be empathetic to all situations? Do we draw the lines individually? Do we make societal lines on these things? And the reason why I'm putting this out there, as if I'm fully confused, is because I want to really have a conversation about this. These lines have been changing. The responses, and by the way, there was something I held in a discussion earlier, so if that person is watching, I actually have held this until now, because one of the curves of adjustment in going back and forth, and I'll say it's Mike, so here's a response, and actually something I'd like to back you up on, is that we've seen throughout the past 40 or 50 years, very clearly, and throughout human history, a lot of swinging back and forth of the pendulum. A response like the sexual revolution was a response to the atomic family or the nuclear family. The response to the sexual revolution was the Reaganomics end of the 80s and the Reagan youth. The response to the Reagan youth were the grunge heads and the hippie revolution and the feminazism and the extreme liberalism of the end of the 90s, grunge and all the 90s grunge shit and backpacker hip hop and And then now we're seeing a response to that with the fasci, with the authoritarian leaning in the liberal side, with the all these things that are responses. We see it back and forth. And I think it's easy to forget or not notice if, in fact, maybe you weren't alive during that time period, or maybe you had a family during that time period, or there's lots of things that could affect that stuff, And it's disingenuous for any of us to act as though these aren't important to notice. And we gave forgiveness for one side of things. We allowed, geez, I got to update my Discord. Oh yeah, Discord hit me right when I opened it, like, oh, you thought you were just going to open up? Let me just crush your computer with updates. Oh, you thought Windows was bad, Microsoft was bad. No. I'm going to open up a very tiny program that's going to take 8 gigs of download. No, it's actually like 150 megs or something. Oh. But we're trying to use you now, Discord. When do we forgive Discord? Is that forgivable? This is what I'm talking about. We live in a first world now, meaning we have access to all kinds of things that affect the way that we interact, that affect the way that we see the value systems. Where am I going with this? Well, my question is,
these videos have been up for a long time and have accumulated millions of views.
When
I shouldn't be able to
affect-
just make an apology video and walk away from it.
become a point of contention to say no more? When do we cut you out? When is provable cancellation? And I hate to use cancel culture as a term, but we used to cancel TV shows. That's where that comes from. When do we actively cancel a TV show for its bad behavior? When do we actively say to somebody, what you've been doing, not acceptable. We don't accept that that's something that should continue. And even though you've self-reflected, folks, isn't there a line each of us draws for these things? Why am I being so vague now? Because it gets deeper. It gets way deeper, as it always does. I'm hitting you with the light stuff. I'm hitting you with iDubbbz asking us where that line is. And saying to this audience, I shouldn't be allowed back, but here I am. He's saying it for himself. But here in the next motion, I'm going to run back and I'm going to play for you a different group of folks who seem to not just have a platform, but seem to get away with being forgiven.
But is it true you back
through a lack of forgiveness?
Like multiracial nations and these kind of borders? Dude, which one was successful? Like ever?
This one, Zerka.
Is it
By the way, the
zero?
voices you're hearing.
Really? What would Destiny's like blue answer be?
So first and foremost, do I forgive these guys for having this conversation? I forgive them for their stupidity, sure. I forgive them for their idiocy, yeah. But do I forgive them for this conversation? Do I forgive them for their effects on the world? Do I forgive them for influencing people? No. Why? Personally, because if you hurt people, if other people that you've influenced hurt people, if your ideology hurts people, if you're going to crush people, if you're going to be cruel to people, as iDubbbz was saying, there should be accountability, right? I would think so. That's the way I'm treated. That's the way I have seen other people treated. So why is it that some things are just ignored, walked past? Why do we let some things be okay and not others? I don't have an answer for that. That's why I'm looking for a conversation here. So, call in. Let's talk smoke. I noticed a couple folks came and went because they were trying to drop. It's funny. They try to drop the smoke over here. But it really, I'm always going to turn it around. I'm always going to turn it around. Because everybody needs a friend. And everybody wants to talk about something. And this is legitimate conversation today. For the first time, I've brought a subject to the table on a Friday when I knew people were going to call about smoke. About a colleague. An acquaintance. And, well, call-in line is empty. Anyhow, happy to talk about it, because today we're talking about bad behaviors. How we can bring a solution to it and where that line is drawn. And I'm not just like asking because I don't know. No. I don't know. But I do have an idea of some solutions for the whole of the subject. Especially because I was having a really wonderful discussion about it earlier. Big shout out to Fairy Queen. I'm sorry, Queen Fairy. It sounds wrong. The other Queen Fairy. Yeah. Incredible lady, incredible mind. I believe she's building a show right now. It should be something about sociology or something interesting, some kind of panel discussion. She's definitely winning the internet right now. I don't know if she set up the channel yet, but yeah, I'd actually invite her on right now. You know what? Let me see if I can invite her on. I don't know where she's at right now. Let me see if she's... I don't want to leave the chat room where I'm at, so I'd have to check otherwise. So if you didn't know, and you probably do now, I have an open mind. I can be swayed. I learn, personally, from my mistakes, from my achievements, from the errors of those around me. And I observe people, and I was saying this earlier, starting to say that before I cut myself off and I was reading something else. I notice what somebody says about somebody else, so I take that into consideration. I notice what people say about themselves, so I take that into consideration. And I take an observation separately, so that's my own idea and of hearing what somebody's saying about themselves and others. And then I also try to take into the consideration the things that are observed from the arcade, from the peanut gallery, from everybody around. Anyhow, and often I will ask the question that many people ask. Let me see. Oh, don't tell me I just lost it. Oh no, it's in the other collection. Oh, your app froze? Oh, Lita, I'm sorry. So that's actually what was happening with mine when I opened it up, because it wanted to download and do so much. You know, Discord is a dope once it's open, but getting it open sometimes is gonna be like, oh my god, who? And there's, by the way, if you're not familiar with Discord, it is incredibly populated with people, and there's all these things going on that you're like, how does everybody have this information at once? Well, that's oftentimes Discord is a thing. It's a thing. Let me see. Oh, so I'm often asking this question, which, this is a song by Michael Sherwood. Can be found on Bandcamp. SHERWOOD, the late Michael Sherwood. Everybody gone, why are we so alone? The band plays on and on and on, and where has everybody gone? Is anybody home? And the reason I play this is because we seem derelict in our duties for each other. That's what I'm bringing up here. And when we allow folks to propagate these messages and propagate the cruelty, and we just let it slide by because it's somebody else's problem, well, that's allowing for authoritarian regime, believe it or not. It's a whole thing where when you just ignore stuff, when you just pretend it's going to go away, you're ignoring the importance of our roles for each other. And it's concerning to me on many levels because we have become derelict for each other in society, and so much that the response to it is a semi form of fascism on one end and another form of authoritarianism. We have been talking about this all week, where essentially, because some folks don't want the responsibility, they won't take it. And some folks, because they want the responsibility when they shouldn't have it, they're going to try to take it. And much of the issues that I have come down to the fact that I'm holding things up in front of the camera. But come down to the fact that it's because folks don't care. It's because folks really want to get away with the bad behaviors. I think it's because folks are now so privileged that they don't realize how privileged they are, or what battle got fought, or what lines were drawn before. So now we're just inventing new lines because those of us who are the elders, one, some of us aren't being heard, and then two, some of us are just staying out of it because it's too much trouble. We saw what happened when you get involved, right? But that's what I'm talking about. Where's everybody gone? The band plays on and on and on, and where has everybody gone? Where's everybody gone? How did we get to Zerka, John Zerka, the gambler, Friends of Destiny, and, or former friend or whatever, I'm not sure, associate of Trainwreck TV, the guy who runs Kick. But he's got a YouTube channel where he explains everything that's going on in the background of the business of Kick, which is a site essentially initially set up for gambling, but is a gaming site, just like Twitch, but a little more, so they call it free-spirited, free-spoken. Or if you go to Sneeko's channel, please do, you're more than welcome to, Lita. If you go to Sneeko's channel, the Love Speech channel. Did he say Love Speech? Yes, I said Love Speech channel. Not as in I love speech, as in instead of hate speech, because you can't say hate speech on Discord. Well, you can, but you couldn't call your channel that. They'd just take the channel down. So, Love Speech channel, where, go ahead and check that out. You can just go type in Sneeko's Discord channel if you were so inclined, and you could maybe even find an invite to that and check out what's being said in the vocal chats. Huh. Anyhow.
He comes at it with this, like, they always try to obfuscate what diversity is. Because we'll say something like, hey, we don't want America to be Brazil. We don't want America to be Zimbabwe. And he'll say something like... Let
me just stop him there. So he doesn't want America to be Brazil or Zimbabwe. Well, first off, we're the melting pot. You don't even live in the U.S. anymore because you're not allowed to come back. So that's a very interesting thing from a dude who's just angry that he can't be in the U.S. unless he just stops through and goes back. But it's too hard for him to get here because he's on a no-fly list. So let's just draw the line and that the line got drawn for him, right? But how is it that we still hear him? I mean, he's not very wealthy, right? He doesn't have, like, money like that, right? No, he doesn't. He's an average schmo. How does he have this platform? How does he, get on the air with these folks? Oh, it's just associations. Well, hasn't anybody decided that he's a bad guy? Well, no. Somebody definitely benefits from the fact that this cat is spreading a message that they're okay with, that this dude actually has his own streaming channels that he's spending money on, and apparently he can't even afford the streaming channels. The bill was a public thing just recently, or semi-public, that was shared around. He apparently wasn't paying the channel bill for a minute there, and somebody else had to pay it. But, you know, these things happen, right, when you're just a regular schmo? So how come this regular schmo is being so forgiven for all these things? Well, faith is a big thing to have.
But white people in the South have a different culture than white people in New York. And it's like, yeah, but they still have more in common with each other than they do with someone from Sudan or Tanzania, you know? So,
but do they?
Like that, because I've heard Destiny say that shit for years. He goes, well, America doesn't have any harmony or any unity already. You know, like there's already so much difference, it doesn't matter. You know, or they come in and they obfuscate with data, and they'll say, well...
Wait, did you hear what he said? Obfuscate with data. As if using data...
And it's like, really? So then, you know, why do you live in Brickell or wherever?
So there's so much to unpack here. So, first off, what line do we allow for this person to be forgiven? I don't honestly think we should have any line to forgive this cat. Why? Because he's ignorant of facts and history, but he tends to push an ideology that suggests he knows them. So my sense of the scenario is you shouldn't forgive somebody who is willing to sell an idiocy. I say this quite often. Those, as Voltaire said, those who would sell you an idiocy will likely... Emily, what's happening? Welcome in. We are talking about when to forgive, when the line of forgiveness is, and what bad behaviors are. What we can all agree becomes intolerable, and where in society we're needing to draw some better lines and or make things clearer, because I think even the language of allowance is being messed around with. And so, you know, hold on one second. Let me see what's going on here down in the old... Oh, it's gotten quiet as compared to earlier. And actually, you know what? Let me hit somebody up real quickly, because I think you all would benefit from... There she is. Oh, she may be working. Sorry. By the way, for some reason, on both my machines, my capitalization keeps putting itself on. I got to figure out what it is. Subject from earlier. Sorry, I'm writing. I'm telling Fairy Queen that if she'd like to continue the subject that we were all talking about earlier, running my call in if you'd like to continue the subject. All right, cool. Oops, sorry, folks. You can see that stuff. Oh my God, I'm so terrible at this Discord thing. Sorry. By the way, if you're not familiar, this singer right here, Carmela, she's killing it. Amazing performer. In any case, so let's go back to my shit, because that's where we're supposed to be. Anyhow, sorry for putting you on blast. Hopefully I didn't put anything out there. Who knows? It's all hidden anyways. Okay. Where are we at? Oh, we're listening to a pair of really bigoted fools talk about bigotry. Oh, that's what it is. So where do we...
Why don't you live in, like, Little Haiti?
Forgive.
You know, why don't you live in the bad neighborhood? If the statistics support what you're saying, so at the end of the day, they just try to obfuscate what is plain to see and common sense And, what we all see on the news every day or in the streets all the time.
I went to the party. Destiny threw a party when you got banned on YouTube because he can finally stop getting humiliated by you in every single fucking debate.
So Emily says something very important to note here is Emily says, I forgave the individuals who tried to take my life. Forgiveness set me free. Forgiving someone does not mean you should hang out with them. Ah. So does forgiveness mean that we push them out of our sphere? That we keep them away? That we draw the boundary? Is forgiveness in itself a boundary? This is an interesting question. And I would say that is a very, very courageous position, Emily. That you, I practice, I missed the other things that you said. I practice forgiveness, and it's not always easy, Emily says. And I agree. Sometimes it can be misunderstood as well. And by the way, this is a song called Walking on Water by Michael Sherwood. It didn't have those sounds in it. That was me by accident. So walking on water, the danger of slipping in. Sometimes it depends on the situation and individuals. Absolutely, Emily. Absolutely. It is all about the context. I agree. And that's one of the things that we were talking about earlier, is that the context of things is everything. If we leave out the context or the prefacing, we can end up in this mire of problematic ideas where nobody knows what each other is saying anymore, and we just assume that people are taking the worst positions possible. And when we do that, we are being disingenuous and ungracious, yet at the same time we are well-meaning, right? So this is why I bring up some of these videos like this.
You've done a good job destroying him in every debate, but is it true you backed down from a 9/11 debate with Steve?
No, that's fake. I mean, he just lies about that openly. I mean, if you go back, so that was back in, I want to say, August last year, and it was me, him, and Sneeko were on a stream, the three of us. I think that was on a Thursday or a Friday, and so I brought up the JFK conspiracy, and he said, well, let's debate it. Let's schedule a debate right now. And I said, really? I said, okay, let's do it on, I think I said, let's do it on Wednesday. And he goes, okay. And then Sneeko said, well, and I want to debate about 9/11. He goes, okay, well, we'll do that one on Monday. So it's supposed to be Sneeko debating him on 9/11 on that Monday or whatever it was, and I was debating Steve on JFK on that Wednesday.
And I want you to note that he calls him Steve.
I fly out to Miami for my birthday that weekend. Me and Destiny are hanging out, and he's like, well, we're doing our 9/11 debate today. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to do a 9/11 debate. I thought we were just going to hang out and get dinner. I said, we have a JFK debate on Wednesday.
Did you catch that? So Steve-O from Omaha, Steve Burnell from Omaha, hanging out with Nick Fuentes. And bro, I didn't know we were going to have a debate. Bruh, we were going to have a debate? Really? We're going to debate? Bruh, I thought we were just hanging out. So what line do we draw here? Because, I mean, we're not talking about just anybody, right? We're talking about a guy who says things like,
The blue answer would be, I mean, he always comes at it with this, they always try to obfuscate what diversity is. Because we'll say something like, hey, we don't want America to be Brazil. We don't want America to be Zimbabwe. And he'll say something like,
meanwhile, America's the melting pot. We've got plenty of Brazilians. We're attached to South America and Central America. How much more of a moron could you be? Well, you could be pretty much a bigger moron, but not without intending to be and being silly like me, but in any case, by the way, I'm going to clip that up later and be like, just use that 3 seconds. And be like, you seem to be getting really big views on those. They like my hair short that's 15 seconds long. There's like 1,700 views overnight. What the hell? Hold on. Okay. Wait a minute. So, drawing a strong boundary is sometimes necessary. Yes, Emily. Yes, Emily. Yes, Emily. And I'm repeating that several times because both the yes, Emily, and also the strong boundary line. Because essentially, if we don't draw the boundaries, we're not doing ourselves or anybody else a service. That's what I'm saying. And I think that we need to decide, whatever that be, what those boundaries are and be clear about them. But I also, in asking the question, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, what do we find as the boundary, when do we forgive, when don't we forgive? This is because the argument in the background is polarizing at best, and I think it's part of what the issues in the conversation may be. Now, you know, I could be wrong about that. But I don't know. I really don't know. I'm fallible. Can you forgive me for that? Is that the line that we draw where I don't know? So you can't forgive me because I don't know, I haven't made a decision? That's what some people feel, which is why I was talking about that. Because some people feel if I haven't made a decision about one thing or the other, then I must be just as terrible as the people who just let these things go, even though I haven't made a decision about it. What's that about? Am I supposed to have a precog admission? An idea without an idea? Where's the line drawn? When do we say that it's okay? When do we say that it's evil? When do we say that it's just stupid? When do we say, what do we say, how do we say it? When do we say it's abusive? Which kind of abuse? At what level of abuse? Is it just obnoxious? Just annoying? Well, those things can be easily forgiven, right? But when it actually has an impact on people. Here, hold on a second. Yeah, Discord is dumb sometimes, by the way. Oh, is it giving you a hard time? I'm sorry, that sucks. That's how it goes sometimes. It's okay, especially if you're trying it on your phone and you know. Oh yeah, that was a good one. I'm gonna clip that up with me picking my own nose, but it's gonna look like my whole finger's up in there. Sorry, that's gonna be good. Which draws people into this conversation. They're like, "Oh look, he's a silly guy. What are we talking about? Oh my god." Yeah, that's how I get you. I'm using all those tools that the corner church did. Like, not the good church, not the one that everybody's like Unitarian and happy. No, I'm talking about the one where they're like, you should come and have some pie with us. We're just gonna have pie. It's okay. You wanna play a game, a pickup game, pickup basketball? It's not letting you put in your birthday. It's like, I don't want to know. Don't ask, don't tell. Anyhow, forgiveness. Some would say, once you've done me wrong, you've done me wrong, and screw you. And that's it. That's the only chance you have, because you're going to do it again and again and again. And, you know, I can understand that. I can fully understand that feeling. But the question is, really, when is that feeling legitimate based off of somebody being a bigot?
Is it zero? Really? What would Destiny's like blue answer be?
Destiny's blue answer. Which, by the way, some of this stuff, the reason I'm playing this for you in particular is because this lends itself to other topics I've been covering. I want you to notice that what Zerka said is, what's Destiny's blue answer? Well, I'll tell you what. I'm always going to have an Aaron answer. But I'm not going to pick a side to sell you that side disingenuously unless I'm telling you that I'm doing that. Just take a strong man or strong man or a steel man or a devil's advocacy. I'll take any of those. I don't like straw man though. Straw man is just a disingenuous position in an argument. Even if you're taking the devil's advocacy, it's still you're working through somebody else's intention. It's not a good play. In any case, and it's not healthy. And it tends to be that it comes with a whole bunch of just obfuscation, not in the data, but in behavior. And I think behavior, which is why I brought this up, is what we're talking about. I think the difference is whether or not the intent that affects the behavior is malicious. I think whether or not it hurts us, whether the intent was malicious at the first place, matters as well. Because there's a perception, there's an observation, and there's a reception of experience. These things are not binary. These things are multiplexed and complex. And I think it's important for us all to take into consideration when and what and how these things affect us.
You know, they always try to obfuscate what diversity is. Because we'll say something like, hey, we don't want America to be Brazil. We don't want America to be Zimbabwe. And he'll say something like, yeah, but white people in the South have a different culture than white people in New York. And it's like, yeah, but they still have more in common with each other than they do with someone from Sudan or Tanzania, you know. So.
Oh yes, like, Emily, you came in a little late, so you're at the point where I've kind of drawn this weird line in that I already let y'all know that I'm confused. I'm glad that you're telling me that you're confused, because I'm confused too. I'm confused about what's okay, what's not okay, where we draw the line of forgiveness for things that are not okay, which used to just be simply, I can't forgive you because you're a fucking bigot. I'm not gonna forgive you because you're a freaking bigot. Or I'm not gonna forgive you because you tried to take my life. I don't have to, and you've got a courageous, that's why I said you have a very courageous point of view. So I'm asking, because this is a topic of discussion amongst the younger folks, but I don't even think they acknowledge that they're having this, which is that they've been exploring their freedom of speech and freedom of behaviors. Oh, no, Emily, there's nothing bad about this. It is all, you actually came in and you asked the right question. I'm confused about what I'm asking. I think most people are confused about what is being asked. Because when I hear the responses, I get such a wide range of personal and deflective and exceptionalism and whataboutism. I get all kinds of very individual and personal responses. But what I don't get is a societal level response. A response that says, we have now decided that this behavior is bad and we're not going to accept it. And it shocks me because when we're talking about, yes, ma'am, you're literally an abuse survivor, and I as well. And we might have a different take on it than others will. But it tends to be that abuse survivors go in one direction or other, where it's, the psychosis of experience may cause a Stockholm syndrome, and it's very common, or it may cause a rejection and repulsion. I know somebody in the Discord server who has experienced that and is working on that, working through that. And so these things affect us all, and that's why I ask, where is this societal line, or is it individual? Is it individual to the person? Or is it contextual only? Is it all these things? I'm asking because it's such a confusing, hard thing to address. Because we're talking about multiple layers, multiple schools of thought, multiple perceptions, and as I always say, there's 8 billion a-holes and 8 billion opinions, so we love our own brand, so that's going to be a portion of this biasing too. So when I pull up this stuff that is essentially unforgivable to me.
There's already so much difference, it doesn't matter. Or they come in and they obfuscate with data, and they'll say, well, I went to imright.com, and according to my study, it says that immigration is actually awesome. And it's like, really? So then, why do you live in Brickell or wherever it is, and why don't you live in, Little Haiti? Why don't you live in the bad neighborhood?
I mean, it's so weird. Some of his associations are so he's so used to being cynical and deriding that he doesn't even realize that his association is simply unforgivable, stupid, limited. Well, if you believe in this, why don't you live in an impoverished area? And then and Zerka's just listening to it because he thinks it's funny. Is this unforgivable? My opinion, yes. But I know several people that would say that I'm the unforgivable person for saying this and that somehow I'm attacking free speech. Am I? Or am I just pointing out the boundary that I have around this? I'm not making the demand that there has to be a response. Emily says it's individual in her opinion. I actually would respect that. I do believe this is an individual thing. I think that certain levels of it become societal once we all see these individual things coalesce. I think we can all agree that hate speech and wanting to scratch this incredibly dangerous bovine's chin, those are universal, right? We can all agree that these are similarities, these are concepts that we can all agree upon. Or can we? Because clearly there's enough folks that agree with this stuff.
Plain to see it, common sense, and what we all see on the news
Emily,
every day
yes.
or in the streets all the time.
I went to the party. Destiny threw a party when you got banned on YouTube because he can finally stop getting humiliated by you in every single fucking debate. But
so, did you hear how there's forgiveness in from one of these people to the other people? It's an individual situation, but there's a lack of forgiveness for Destiny celebrating a bad person being kicked off a platform, even though that person is his friend. Is that forgivable? All of that? I'd argue that that's despicable behavior, but could be forgivable based off of, their little group of friends. That's the way they behave. So I'm not involved with it. It doesn't hurt me, does it? And Emily says, 100%. We all have our right to our own boundaries. Yes, absolutely we do. That is a big deal, because if we don't set our boundaries, then we are unsafe in general, right? Then we're unsafe for others, unsafe for ourselves. We haven't set boundaries of whether or not we'll walk off the cliff, right? That's something, right? I'm just saying. I'm asking. I'm wondering. Because it seems like this is something we should be considering, I'd gather. I'd hope. And it seems that... I do have an internet audio. I was supposed to do that in like 25 minutes ago. There we go. There's that. And, oops. Internet audio, picture, yep. Yep. All right.
You've done a good job destroying him in every debate, but is it true you backed down from a 9/11 debate with Steve?
No, that's fake. I mean, he just lies about that openly. I mean, if you go back, so that was back in, I want to say, August last year, and it was me, him, and Nico were on a stream, the three of us.
So the reason why I'm playing this for you, by the way,
Friday,
is to point out that these terrible, despicable characters, these abominable human beings, atrociously behaving human beings.
I think I said, let's do it on Wednesday. And he goes, okay. And then Nico said, well, and I want to debate about 9/11. He goes, okay, we'll do
They're
that on
talking
Monday.
about forgiving each other.
So it was supposed to be Nico debating him on 9/11 on that
for their
Monday
misgivings.
Or whatever it was, and I was debating Steve on JFK on that Wednesday. And so I fly out to Miami for my birthday that weekend. Me and Destiny are hanging out, and he's like, well, we're
So
doing
horrible
our 9/11
people can
debate
forgive
today.
horrible
And I'm
people,
like,
right?
Dude,
Well, of course they can. Because if you have less of an ethic, anything is forgivable. Which is why I can understand why some people relate that idea of I'm forgiving them. They did a horrible thing to me, but I got to forgive them. Which I'm there with you, Emily. I have to move past those things. I don't have to hang out with them. But folks may be confusing the societal level for the personal. Because as Emily says, it is highly individual. And they are shallow. Yes, this is my next point. Their perspective is fairly shallow. One of the things that I actually said to Fuentes was, well, your perspective is shallow. And he said, I'm not shallow. Well, okay, that's not what I was saying. I reiterated, your perspective is shallow, sir. Your lack of knowledge, you're showing your age. So I would say, is it age? I would ask, is it age? Is that something that we're facing? That age drives some of this conversation? I think so. And I think as we get older, we get a different value of apology, of forgiveness, of empathy. So enough of these schmoes. Let me take it to the next one, because the next one is where things get super interesting. And it's actually, by the way, I normally wouldn't do this. Normally I'm sharing other people. But this is where I'm going to share one of my own, because it just happens to be something that I was covering a little while ago. And hey, I got a new subscriber. Thank you to whomever that was. Thank you. That's so kind. This is a video you can see for yourself. I won't play the whole thing, but I'm going to kind of cut through this real quickly. It's called White Girl and the Cops Who Chased Her. And I'm going to just literally play this kind of out because I make commentary on this. And it's also, I literally VJ this. So, but this is an example of a question about... No, it's not okay.
Earlier when you and somebody else...
No! So, my question here... Oh, that's the short.
Earlier when you and somebody else...
No, I literally... Relax. No,
relax.
I literally... Sarah, I am
Sarah, relax.
I am talking to her.
Give you one more time to shut your mouth.
I am relaxing. I am talking.
That was the cop, by the way.
I am relaxing.
I particularly love how Sheriff Christina over here interjects herself in the conversation like she thinks he's me. And basically like, oh, officer, out of the way, this is my friend. That's my friend. She doesn't want to date you. That's the way she treats this interaction. Okay. So what is this about? Why am I sharing the short? I'll share the larger channel video as well. But what is this about? Why am I bringing this into forgiveness? Well, because I think we have a societal problem in understanding what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, what we allow others to do and get away with, essentially. You know? Or don't you? I don't know. This is the question. Who is allowed to create the forgiveness? When is the forgiveness acceptable? When do we overlook things? And why? So is this forgivable? As soon as I get it up. Is this...
I am relaxing. I am talking to her.
There!
I am relaxing.
I particularly love how Deputy Sheriff Christina over here just interjects herself in the conversation like she thinks he's me. And basically like, oh, officer, out of the way, this is my friend. That's my friend. She doesn't want to date you. Which I'm gonna mention this a lot and treat this way because that's the way she treats this interaction. And I've seen this a lot with grown women treating, just because there's a man sitting across from them. And I have to be able to have this conversation about the gender issue here because, you know, I like to think that that we can be equal, that we can be fair to each other, that we can be a better human set. But this behavior in itself, whether you're male or female, is what we got to address. This entitlement to being above the law, being above the rules. No, the rules apply to you. Everything applies to you. Everything applies to us. And he's not trying to pick you up just because you're a woman. And stop trying to use that stuff, please. Please. You're messing with society. You're messing with reality. You're trying to say that whatever you believe at any given time is what reality is. And we can see the same as you. So, Deputy Sheriff Christina, go ahead and detail what's going on here. Cause,
I am relaxing. I am talking to...
Is this forgivable? Either one of them in a drunken state?
Like
screaming.
Talk to me.
Yeah, okay. Don't talk to him! Talk to me! Say it to me! Say it to me! Yes.
There's an actual
I'm
police
pointing out
officer
something
in front of her,
silly
and
here.
she's literally telling her friend, "Talk to me." After just because he said no.
And why am I
Sure,
sharing
talk to
this?
me. This guy's being so patient.
What is important about this conversation? This, in itself, is a behavior that comes out through allowance in our society. Because we simply stopped pushing that certain behaviors aren't acceptable. We've allowed it in the public. So this is the response in the snapback, which is why I mentioned this earlier. The snapback happens among society for all of us, individually and as a group, in response to the things we see over time in arcs. Now, just like the snapback to the sexual revolution of the 1960s is the Reagan youth of the 1980s and the Christian conservatism. And as I said before, the response to that at the end of the 90s was the grunge and the hippiedom and the revision of the hippie world and the feminizing and the metrosexuality and the throuple kiss and all these things. This is the response to the Reagan. I'm not saying bad or good. I'm just saying that's what it is. So if it comes off that way, I'm just telling you how it is. That's the history of it. And then now, about the same amount of time later, we've got the response in the fascies, the promise rings, the don't have sex until you're married, the everybody have sex now, the OnlyFans, the authoritarianism versus fascism, the confusion over words, the lines, folks. The lines. Which is why I ask, where are they? What are they? What do you make them? Why do you make them? Where do they happen? This is why this is so confusing. Because I'm not telling you what to think. I'm not telling you what it is. I don't know what it is either. I'm bringing up a subject we should all be freaking super concerned about, but it tends to be, oh, by the way, that's sunlight in my beard. Anyway, I'm bringing this up because this is the conversation in itself. The behavior. So when I ask, where's the line? What is forgivable? When do we forgive? It's just a red herring. That's why I turn the music off. That's why I let the background noise fill in. That's the air conditioning, by the way. Emily says that she thinks that most people are guilty of bad behavior at some point in life, and we all need forgiveness, especially forgiving ourselves. Absolutely. And forgiving ourselves tends to lead to understanding for others, if I'm not mistaken. And that allows us to move forward, to give leeway to those, but also to draw the safer boundaries. To be able to exclude, to be able to find those correct points. Correct meaning acceptable to the general, to the larger group. And that can be a dangerous thing as well, because, the larger group can be a mob. But we try to do our best. And that's where I would hesitate, personally, to draw evil versus good in all this. And why I asked the question, where do we forgive? Because I wanted the conversation to get somewhere. I wanted the conversation to have a quiz, a question, a wonder. And I used this video that I've already made, that you can watch the whole thing of, to just draw out to a certain point what we've allowed. And I started with iDubbbz talking about how he shouldn't be forgiven and how he's surprised that he's still on for dropping N-bombs as long as he did and being cruel to people and basically being ruthless as a creator, and then saying it really only affects other creators, when I would say this affects all of us. And completely agreeable Meme Cat agrees. The union dancers may not. They don't speak English anyways, I don't think. Domo arigato? Alright, anyways. I mean, moshi moshi. I just said thank you. And then hello. Anyway. I digressed.
I mean, for real, gotta drop it.
By the way, you notice the silly music's in this one?
Because the story.
You know when it's a fucked up story and it's the silly music's on.
Listen to me, please.
Sierra!
Literally, what just
Sierra, talk to me.
Thank you. Me too, Emily.
I am in her best interest at heart.
So, the sheriff, Christina over here,
Yeah,
she's
I
about
don't
to
know
get her
what make
friend
of
in
that.
trouble.
No, you don't.
and then
it
she
doesn't
gets in
matter.
real trouble.
It doesn't matter that you think you have their best interest. You are a 20-plus-year-old woman. You don't get to interject like you're in high school or like college rules don't apply here. Because there's a man sitting in front of you doesn't mean that you get to act like a fool. But apparently it does.
Apparently it does.
doing this, that, and the other.
This, that, and the other. Oh, I love, by the way, this explanation to a cop. This, that, and the other. What does that mean?
Yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't matter how many degrees you have. If you describe stuff without being able to describe it, it means nada.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Raises a red flag. Just a couple times. You
Remember
know.
when my window was smaller?
Excuse me. Red flag.
Scratch your chin.
What?
What?
That's
not how you help
She's not walking away till I let her walk
That's
away.
definitely not how you help
Yes.
people.
See, this is how police officers work. We all know this, right? And if you were any
Oh
other,
no, Lita, hold on a
if you were
second.
from any other
Let
background,
me just give you a cathartic freeze. Stop moving, dancer. Oh God, stop moving. All right, sorry. All right, I forgive Discord.
much less if you were. Oh my God!
It doesn't surprise me. Discord like
If you.
It's hilarious
Oh my
how
God!
it like works once you got it
Oh
open.
my God!
Oh my God!
Oh, I can't imagine. Can you imagine?
I can imagine.
Can you imagine?
No, I can
if this
imagine,
were
dude. No,
somebody
I already said it. I can imagine. So stop.
darker,
Or stop. I won't
melanin
forgive you.
tone?
What?
Uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable. And thank you for making that sound effect, because that was.
Walk the fuck away now. Serious.
Wow! I love that she's angry at her.
By the way, you're
because
looking
she's
at a
not
police
walking away from
camera.
The police officer. What kind of delusion? Are we talking about women being in this country being under delusion? But that's a proof of it. Like she can't walk away. She's actually technically being detained. Walk away now! She wasn't getting her way. She got infuriated. She's not even thinking about the fact that she's looking at a police officer, and it gets even crazier.
It gets real crazy.
Sarah.
Lita says, hold on a second. Lita says, I don't forgive Discord. Discord can go straight to Babylon. Babylon, yeah. Yeah, actually, you know what? Speaking of which, oh, wait, do I have any reggae? I don't have reggae that I can play right there. Sorry, my bad. Sorry. Yeah, Discord can go to hell sometimes. Like, Discord is hell. Like, there are edges of Discord that are literally, like, actually, I believe they're hell. For reals. What is on right now that I'm buzzing? Oh, I know. You can hear, I've got my gain just hot as hell. Just hot. It's just hot. There. Because so that way I can be loud anywhere that I am. Just incredibly loud. That's also how the mic is sounding so much clearer now. Anyways, there's that light just perfectly balanced on my chin. Anyhow, what am I doing? Oh, I'm forgiving myself for taking too much time.
No, you're a liar, sir. It is not settled and done. This is just about to get insane.
He's right. And that cop was too quick to forgive.
Let me see your ID.
Of course, see my driver's license.
Okay.
I 100%. I'm just trying to help.
Are you 100%? You're not.
I'm 25
She's not
years
100%.
old.
Oh, okay. I want you to remember that. She says, I'm 25 years old. And this is something that
she's
we have
lying.
to deal with in
Then
society.
she- then
is
she-
that
when you're
people
25,
just
you know that you're
so
25.
practice at lying because they're allowed to lie amongst their friends and people that know them who just let it go instead of going, yo, that's not true. You know that, right? So the delusion builds up so they don't even know when they're lying anymore until they're confronted with a really extreme reality situation like this. And that's where it's like we have to hold people accountable. Doesn't matter what gender you are. Doesn't matter what skin tone you are. If you're not being held accountable, and trust me, white ladies, no. If you say, I hold myself accountable. No, somebody else has to do that for you. You can't do it for yourself. And your girlfriends who are going to lie to you to keep you messed up, which basically we've in this country, that's what seems to be happening, is that girls aren't being good friends to each other. You'll let yourself go out looking insane.
And at what point do you not forgive your friends for not being very good friends in this fashion? Because I mean, like, honestly, that's what I kind of think is like I don't think that people are being very good friends. I don't think that people are telling each other what these lines really are. I think I need a third head in here. Hold on a second. I don't have enough heads. Where's the other one? This is a new one. Oh, there it is. Oh, I moved him. I moved me. The hell? Oh, I know what's going on. I changed. There we are. Oh, now I'm just hiding behind myself. Hold on a second. Let me get me in a position that you can see me on me with me. Oh, what is? By the way, if you want to just watch hours of this antic and Eva telling stories as opposed to just in my ear giving me information, Twitch tonight at 9. So confusing. Oh, there's so many me. There's a lot of me. You don't have to forgive me for being me. I understand. Or do I? Now this is another portion of this. Do people really understand why these things go down? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if people are actually being forgiving, or if they're just being contentious, or if they're being selfish and shallow, or if they're being just ignorant. It's hard to say half the time. I don't know about you, but we don't know each other's intellect level. Let's get out of this corner. How did I end up in this corner over here? Oh, I was showing you all my heads. Some people say I have a large head. Or do they say I'm a big head? Confused. Should I forgive them for that? Yes. Alcohol. Oh, alcohol. Alcohol does affect people. And in this case, up above, boy. Woo, lady. Lady. Anyways, the gear is working great now, by the way, if you didn't notice. Gear is working great now. And the delay you're watching there is, I'm gonna fix this on camera. That camera is bothering the hell out of me. Let me fix oh, that's why. Color correction is all freaking off. Look at that. It looks like I'm in like a future wave film. Let's saturate this bad boy a little bit more. Oh, now I'm like tomato. Now I'm like a tomato. Now I've got rosacea. That's unforgiving. Ew. It looks like I've got a bad case of rosacea now. Hold on a second. Let's pull it back. All the way back. Yes. And let's bring the brightness down because I'm so bright. I gotta wear shades. Now I'm too dark. And that's contrast. So let's take the contrast down. And now I'm way too dark. And now I'm too high. It's too high, too gamma. There's too many things going on. It's actually the terrible camera, to be frank with you. And then the hue shift. Let's take it to... I'm Shrek. Unforgivable coloring. Unforgivable. And part of the reason it's unforgivable is because I'm just wasting time. No, I'm not. I'm not wasting time. What am I doing here? I'm playing with the camera in front of you because I want to ask the question. Is this unforgivable? Is this a waste of your time? Is this something that you can forgive me for? Or is this something that we should be aware of that's problematic? Is this a simple thing because I'm making content? Or is this something that should be taken into consideration because you're watching content that we should be very serious? Oh, God. Somebody turn the light out. I'm in the dark over here. Just over there, though. Not over here. Oh my God. My breath must be hot. Ah, thank you. And I've been waiting for somebody to say this, and I figured it would be you, Emily. I knew it was either going to be you or Lita. So, yes, the difference becomes, are we enabling? Are we just forgiving? Or are we allowing somebody to get away with some heinous ass shit? Is it gender related? Is it human related? Now in this video, I'm calling out the gender because in particular, a lot of the things that go down in this video, other than just my large head on top of my other head, other than the large heads, which is very enabling for my ego, which may be unforgivable. Yeah. Anyhow, Lita says that this is pretty forgivable. I'd agree. I'd hope so, because otherwise you wouldn't still be watching. But when it becomes more than that, and it becomes legal, or is that a dancing Barack Obama? It is a dancing Barack Obama. And it just happens to be in the mix with the dancing Lincoln. And there's a George Washington as well, but the dancing George Washington was in red, so I had to cut it in between and go straight to the dancing punk rockers. Yeah, no. There's a whole group. I actually had in amongst. I have a dancing chimpanzee as well, and unfortunately, I had to stop using the pig chimpanzee because occasionally the green screen leaves just a terrible image that you can't tell it's a chimpanzee anymore. And I looked over and was like, oh my God, I have the most bigoted freaking image in the world on my screen. What the hell? What the hell did I do? I'm gonna get canceled. Somebody's gonna, please don't snip me. Oh my God, it's an image in front of me. Stop. Oh, see how the red comes up? I didn't cut that one by accident, so that's yeah. And by the way, the reason I have the dancing Obama is because that's our coolest president. I met him. He was aloof as hell. But that's how damn cool he is. And his wife, she is the coolest first lady we may have ever had next to Eleanor Roosevelt, who wasn't that cool, actually. She wasn't that cool. Kind of fascist, actually. Anyways, I digressed. Is this forgivable? Yeah. Because it's a little excursion over the boundary line. It's not some incredible, massive motion. And look at the face. By the way, can you tell the cameras have gotten a little better? You can't even tell that I have, like, dimples. Or a dimple on that side. You can't even tell. Sorry. In a race to see who can look more crazy. And thank you, Lita. Forget about caring about what anybody else thinks. Is that what you think of yourself? That you're untouchable? That you're beyond the rest of us? That you're better? Well, then that's called exceptionalism. That's not equality. That's now fascism and totalitarianism. That's you trying to be better than everybody else. And you know what? That's not okay. And that's where you and I have to do something about this in our general everyday life, whether you see it in a Kyle or a Karen. It doesn't really matter. It's time for us to call it out and be like, hey, you can't do that anymore. I don't accept it. That's some craziness. And we got to stop being scared of looking it straight in the eye. Scared. I said a scared. Look up!
Trespassing you from America, come back here. Let me see your license.
Yeah, give me his license. Oh, thank you, Lita. Come on.
Here. I'm 26 years old.
Oh, I disagree. You're lovely on camera. What are you talking about? You have really equal features, and you've got a lovely slender face. Oh, come on. Come on. Oh, the craziness isn't one-sided, by the way. Yeah, the craziness was not one-sided.
Sisters, it's okay for them to be insane.
Okay, listen. We got this under control.
Let it go.
Okay.
You do not have this under control.
You know who's in the wrong. You're making
Megan, let it go.
Calm down now.
You're not.
Okay, do I make myself
Sorry, this whole video is just amazing. We haven't even gotten to the good part.
You need to calm down now. Okay.
You don't seem fine.
Calm down now. Okay.
Okay, can we have a conversation about this? If somebody, it doesn't matter what gender you are, what background you're from, if somebody says, yo, you need to calm down, you probably need to calm down. You need to stop being defensive when that happens. You don't.
And by the way, I'm going to say
one
this.
thing or the other.
I don't care what you feel. Oh, yeah. If somebody comes up to you, especially a rando, if Marlon Rando or Brando Rando come up to you, and they say, yo, calm the fuck down, in that term, or calm down, or you need to calm down, or someone that loves you says, all right, calm down, and you turn it into something other than calming down, them telling you to calm down is forgivable. You responding to somebody saying, hey, calm down, I'd say that's not forgivable. Why? Because we as adults, we're supposed to be able to respect other people, right? And the boundaries that other people set. So if somebody walks over to you while you're really upset, for any reason, I mean, any reason, because, and I say this because perspective is hard to have in the fourth wall, in the third eye. It's hard to have. Now, many people have been practiced at it. I have a real practice at it because I'm used to, my whole life I've been staring in the mirror. I know what that, I know, I can do this. Hold on a second. I'm going to turn the camera off, and I can make those faces. You can't see it. Now I can't see it because I turned them. I know exactly what I look like. All right. I know exactly what I look like because I've been practiced at that. But most people can't do that with themselves. By the way, I'm definitely clipping that moment. I am definitely clipping. That is a viral for me moment. I'm going to have like 800 views. It's gone. What would that be? It hasn't gone viral. It's gone mild cold. It's gonna sniffle. It's gone. My last video went sniffle. Take the piss right out of that. Anyway, up in the corner. Anyhow, what's really going on here? People are nuts. People are nuts. Let me just fast forward it to the portion that it gets really good. Really good. Because don't forget, Sheriff Christina is still in the story. And Sheriff Christina then, by the way, let me just cut to it, brings all the attention on her, even though she is not the one who got into the fight.
Anything wrong to you, and I don't know why it makes
I'm not going to vote.
I don't understand. I didn't do anything to you. I feel like I've had my hands on my face most of this time.
I got a zip from that, by the way.
Oh, the pain, the thinking, my brain, why are you? I don't edit, so I just pull myself into the camera.
I cannot forgive.
Holy shit!
Holy shit.
This with you. I am not going to debate this with you.
Yeah, this is not a debate. This is
Not a debate,
see,
brah.
He's not
This
trying
is
to
not
hit
the
on your friend.
DGG. We are not in Wix server right
This is
now.
not a debate. You're
We are
about
not
to get
in
arrested,
even the
young
political
lady.
shit. Well, we're kind of in a political shit show.
You have.
You have.
I saw what just happened. Everybody is together.
By the way, the only sane person in the entire situation, she's clearly drunk, and more power to her. She just comes out and goes, let me explain what's actually going on, officer.
But none of these people, this is none of them. They're all involved. Yes, ma'am. I understand, ma'am. Ma'am. Is that forgivable? I'd say so. It's very forgivable. Why? Because she is drunk as screw. She is just drunk as screw. She says, oh, we have a guest. Let's see who's here. King James, as in the King James Bible. How you doing, King James? You can cam up if you want, or let me pull you up onto the screen. And we'll stop for a second. Let me put some background music in so we can have a conversation over the background. Oh, okay, cool. You're there. Hi, King James. Go on a second. Let me make sure I've got the audio turned up enough for you. And let me see, where is the internet audio around here? Hold on a second. I got to roll back up to the application audio. And let let me just add something to it so I can make sure that I can adjust the volume, King James. Can you hear me, King James?
Yeah, I hear you.
I can hear you. Let me. Can the audience hear? Actually, you know what? Let me add the filter here that'll make it louder, just real quickly, before I move on here. Oh, jeez. Sorry. 2 seconds, and I'll add that filter. Where did it go? It just went away, because of course that's what it does. There we go. Picture in picture. Nope. Discord. There's the filter. Only Solutions. Thanks for coming into the Only Solutions, by the way. As you notice, that's the name of this portion of the server. This is the lookup server, by the way, folks. Oh, hey, you had your camera for a second. Hey, what's happening? Awesome.
Wait, hold on. Yeah.
Let me pull the gain up so I can give you some more volume here. And there we go. Now we can definitely hear you. And I'm sorry.
Okay.
There you are, King James. So King James, where are you calling from today? Let me pull you off over the screen.
I come from Trinidad and Tobago. I'm calling from Trinidad and Tobago.
You're calling from Trenton, you said?
Trinidad and Tobago.
I'm sorry,
I'm calling from Trinidad and Tobago.
Oh, Trinidad!
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a very strange story in my own life about Trinidad, and I was told I went there when I didn't realize that I went there. Tobago, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You hear me?
I do. And let me widen out the picture, just trying to set it into space. Hi, James. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
I am okay.
What are you bringing to the table today, James?
Well, the thing that's in America right now, it is very, how I could put it, very one way. Everybody getting sensitive.
You might have to get closer to your microphone, James. It's cutting you off. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hello, hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. It's just the Discord sometimes cuts off the vocals.
Yeah. What I'm saying is that I'm realizing that America is getting very sensitive with everything. You hear me?
I do. It just garbled you just a little bit. I'm sorry. And you're saying that there's a difference in perception between the spaces, and you're hearing.
Hold on. You hear me now?
I can.
Yeah. I'm saying that I'm realizing that America is getting sensitive every day.
Oh, well, there's a lot of sensitivity in certain circles. There's a lot of lack of sensitivity in other circles. And there's a big disconnect in communication that is, I would say, especially being from the Caribbean, there's I've observed a different set of communication style and a different set of societal relationship style where I know that my experiences and folks that I know that are from the Caribbean are much more family oriented in a lot of ways than the general American system, much more close, so I'd say that you're probably observing that, lack of empathy in some ways, maybe. I don't know, that's just me.
Exactly.
So So tell me more about what you were seeing as the differences and what you're noticing.
Well, I'm noticing that you can say in the Caribbean we are more like conservative in what I mean is like like certain things you cannot change, like biology and trying to like force things on people. We're not like that. Certain like agendas we don't force that on people.
Understood.
For example, we know there's two genders, but if you see there's two genders in America, people people usually freak out or they cancel it because you said there are only two genders.
Yeah, there is I mean, one of the things about exposing the world through our media and feeding people information through what are our powerful media sources, be it the news, YouTube, being also the source of a lot of what could be construed as social changes that are a little more modern comparative to other places. You're going to have probably the more extreme new forms of concept be amplified in a way that may come off to other folks around the world as pushy. And I understand that as somebody who's traveled around. Not just pushy, but in your face, that they're, especially because you're going to see the extreme of the story. So one of the things I find very interesting is, like, in the Discord world, I mean, when you're bringing this up, because I hear this a lot, some folks feel like this concept of the binary is very important, and some people think that it's being pushed on them on both sides, and some people feel like the gender addition is being pushed on them. And so there's a lot of different sides to the story. Now, I hear that from people outside the country, especially folks that are in countries that are more religiously based or have a stronger Christian element or a stronger Muslim element, or there's a definite response to this because that's just not forgivable, which is the topic of today's subject, by the way, is forgiveness, and where do we draw these lines. So here's where I ask you, where, in your perception, because you're from Trinidad, Tobago, where for you is the line of forgiveness, and can you forgive that insertion of the topic? Because obviously it's not all of America, but it's a portion of it that wants you to feel something. So can you forgive the media for, or is there a reason to forgive the media? And where do you draw the lines between social and the larger picture?
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. We in the Caribbean, we like to have proof of certain things before we react to it. We need, like, information, facts before we make our opinion on those concepts that media is pushing on us. You understand what I mean by that?
Absolutely. No, I mean, like, you want validation. You want to know that that's actually being pushed as opposed to just assuming, right?
Yes, if that is the truth. But what I realize is that when certain, like, agendas are being pushed and people are telling you to accept it, it comes off as like being a Nazi.
That's very interesting. So yeah, and I want to. Okay, so, and I would forgive. By the way, being that this is the topic, you heard me say this a number of times. I'll forgive you for that, because what you're describing there is that some people, is what's happening within some portions of the media. They're selling, and this is very common, by the way, in the U.S. over time. The media has been used over and over again as a proper and a very equitable tool to create openness to subjects that people weren't open to before. So it's very easy for that tool to be misused as well, and to come off as being misused.
I would say the media has been weaponized to the extent that you can manipulate certain groups of people.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know if you've watched my show at all, but I talk about this weaponization of the disenfranchisement. It disenfranchises people against each other when they probably have more in common than they have opposed, right?
I could give you an example. You see, when the 45th president came into power, CNN has been, like, pushing a certain aspect of that administration, right? I just give you an example. And what realized that after you all have 46 president, which was Joe Biden. Pretty much CNN said before Joe Biden has been debunked.
Well, I mean, like, we could talk about that separately. You talking about the vote itself, or just the validation of the process?
Validation of the process.
Oh, well, that was public. So I don't know what debunking you're talking about. I mean, I watched that whole thing live on that day throughout the process, and actually I had 4 different counts going on that were giving real time. So our process is incredibly transparent. It's very hard to break, and unless you dump votes in cities, which as somebody who's like very, very knowledgeable of this and whose mother does. Actually, I don't know if I actually can mention this, but I will anyways. She is involved in the local constabulary of counting votes, so I know how the processes work across the country. And one of the things that was very interesting about the last election, and we can forgive people across the nation. Yes, Emily, I apologize if it's coming across choppy. So what he was asking me is whether or not, and let me get this straight. We understand that other people have been pushed or had these ideas pushed, as well as we've had this idea pushed, that the last election was correct, and that essentially, if I'm understanding correctly, that has also been essentially mirrored across the planet into people like in Trinidad. That he's seeing that these messages after Biden have been amplified. Am I correct in that? That the messages come yeah.
Have been amplified by Biden, and unless we see Biden as like weak.
Yes, I hear that in a lot of the responses elsewhere in the world, because you are used to seeing presidential perception through the lens of the media that you guys get. And elsewhere in the world, so you're not seeing like active day-to-day interaction, and oftentimes they won't. Just like it's. So I follow a lot of different crazy news services that people don't even know about, like Voice of Africa. I follow the Caribbean News Service, which is Jamaican Pro, which is actually a dude with his own little news show on. And that's a whole other thing, and mostly I do that because he used to be a DJ who played the best island grooves, but that's beside the point. Like music you can't get in the United States, because the media, interestingly enough that you mentioned this, sells different images elsewhere. And so part of the concept of today is the forgiveness line that we're having an issue with in the US, of finding these lines of saying what is acceptable and what is not, and where do we forgive people for those behaviors and pushing that behavior on us as acceptable. Where do we draw the line for each other to say, where is it okay to send you a message that's not only sending the wrong about us, but where is it the line of where you are given the allowance and boundary to have an acceptable point of view within that? Where is it an acceptable message to you? Why is it that we're pressing that message on you? And why aren't we respecting other people's ideologies in that message? And so it's a tough, confusing, troubling question. And I'm glad you actually brought up the points that you're bringing up, because you're bringing up perception from another point of view from another country. Most people forget about that.
Yeah.
So
because also I've been seeing about this thing called Bud Light in America.
Oh yes, the Bud Light, the transsexual issue, where they were trying to. There was actually a marketing to get acceptance via using a Bud Light can.
Yeah. Well, here's the funny thing about that. Well, that whole thing, Bud Light fiasco. Well, I have a feeling that will be taught in business school.
I agree with you.
In the sense of how not to ruin a brand.
No, I agree with you, and it's a sad situation in that. So I follow a transsexual speaker on YouTube. She's a great. She is an incredible speaker, because she's she's actually Republican, so she's middle of the road in her politics to the right, but her social, she's she looks like actually a very good-looking woman. Now, 10 years ago, she was a full-blown man. What's interesting about her is she has a take on these things that is more, I think, legitimate because she's a transsexual, and she doesn't appreciate things like utilizing messages that essentially become unforgivable because they misrepresent people and they push an image on folks in general that is not okay. I'd compare it to, can you repeat? So, by the way, Emily, I am open to, and I follow everybody's messaging. I want to understand what everybody's talking about. Just like what this gentleman's talking about is the perceptions outside our country. And I'm not agreeing that the actual idea is correct, because I don't agree with, I don't agree with that. I think we all I think they had a good idea, but they botched the idea and position. And actually that's what this lady that I follow, she was talking about this, that what a terrible marketing plan that they shoved down the throats, they doubled back on it, and then even after everybody realized it's a terrible idea and a terrible way to do it, it expressed everything wrong. And that's actually unforgivable.
Because how can you advertise for specific for a specific group which is small in that country? I mean, the majority of people who consume your product is men, but instead of trying to go for men, they go for a group that people are trying to get accustomed to.
Yeah, it's that, but it's also, it was done in a very poor fashion. It was done in a way and then doubled down on. I would agree with you that it probably hit a lot of people that would have been more accepting of it in a different fashion of approach. There's so many different ways they could have framed that commercial. We can talk about that. But even when when WPP, which is the company that did the advertising, fires that person who came up with the campaign, apologizes, tries to re-edit the commercial. The dude who re-edited the commercial was an executive. He got fired. When that happens, when they came out and go, oh, we messed up. The WPP is, by the way, a incredibly inclusive firm. And they handle everything from war to political movements on all ranges of the side. So they don't limit themselves to one ideology or another. So when they admit that was a bad move on their part. And I would say that it's not a bad move of what they were advertising, but how they advertised it with. And you're right that they picked the tiny little percentage of people that they wanted to express about. And instead of doing a more focused campaign that would have worked out better for them, which was the commentary in the business, which will be the commentary in the business schools of like, be careful how and who you associate with and how you display it. Not that transsexuality, for me, I see it as bad. Some people might not agree with me. That's fine. But I would say that it's just like if I took somebody and they were a bad representative of, say, the African-American community, or they were a bad representative, they were a yardie. They were Screwface. You know Screwface?
Yeah, don't say yardie to Jamaican.
Exactly. If it was somebody like that, rest in peace, Screwface, by the way. And this is something, the question, like I'd bring up, am I forgivable for being friends with Screwface? Because I was friends with him. I knew him well.
Really?
We played chess. We played checkers. Yeah, I ate at his restaurant. So and by the way, he was a very little man. I was always amazed when people were like, "You know who?" I said, "Yeah, he's a little guy." Oh, because it wasn't him. It was always, and rest in peace. He went the hard way. Would he have been a good representative of the Jamaican people? I think people have been real pissed. I think people have been real pissed, right? And so I think that what you're seeing with Dylan in that case, and some of the things that came before, the Bud Light ad, because I don't know if you know this, the Bud Light ad followed a women's product company who sell tampons, endorsing it. Yeah, and so there was a lot of things that just didn't make sense where the advertising was overwhelming. And I would say, personally, this is an unforgivable act on 3 levels.
And also, I've seen Adidas is following in the same step as well, because apparently they have a sports line that they have a male model dress up for the female in this sports line for Adidas.
Oh yes, they did do a sports line. Yeah. Now that one I think is a little more. I can think that I think that one's a little more along the lines of like, yeah, that probably would have made more sense. As far as like if you went with that as a focus, because that is also WPP stuff, I would gather, because that's a very Adidas is a big company. Which, by the way, good on you for saying it correctly. It drives me nuts whenever I hear people say Adidas, because I just happen to have known some people that work for the company and they all said Adidas, and I was always like, but isn't it Adidas? And they're like, no, his name is Adidas. By the way, folks, he was an Ethiopian runner. Just so y'all know, that's a person. Adidas is a human. In any case, I agree with the point of the approach. And then, by the way, this topic, what you're talking about, even though I may not agree with you on the subject, like end result, I may not agree with you on that. But I understand where you're coming from, because the different perception is if you're not accustomed to, don't know anybody, or don't agree with it, one would never have the perception that you could. Just like somebody who, if I was to tell somebody, just describe Screwface to somebody, they would look at me and be like, are you nuts? Maybe. Maybe. But we played chess. He was a total gentleman around me. I learned patois, essentially, for hanging out with dude. I think he's a great individual as a human to me and him. But I know people who would never forgive me for that, because essentially, folks, audience, if you don't know what I'm talking about a person who is unforgivable.
More like ruthless.
Yeah. Ruthless. And that person, unfortunately, rest in peace, went down paying for his ruthlessness.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can look him up. There's a couple folks I've known like this, by the way. Am I forgivable for that? Some would say no. Some would say absolutely not. And so this is my whole point of this subject, is that from each of our positions, we see these drawn lines that are so epic. Because...
This is what I don't understand about how Americans think. It's like when Americans hear or see certain things, they go with it. They don't do their own research about it.
Oh, why? Well, why don't Americans research things? Emily, well, let me ask the chat real quickly. They'll add into this. Why don't Americans research things? I'll tell you why I think Americans don't research things. Because we, for the most part, have a wide range of folks at mid-range intellectual level that are told constantly information that they think is the complete information. We have a lot of colloquial tribalism that is not unlike going from, Trenchtown to Trinidad. It's like you've got totally different, similar, but totally different towns, And Emily says lazy. I think lazy plays into it. I think that we are so subdued on one level. I think another level is that people are very full of themselves here.
Because I could give an example of that. Okay, remember what happened to George Floyd, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I will never forget that.
And they created BLM. Well, something like that happened in Trinidad and Tobago. But here's the thing about that. 90% of the police officers were black.
Yeah, so, oppression, has no color. And one of the things that we're learning in the United States is, just like everybody around George Floyd. Yeah, there was a white guy on his neck, but there was an Asian guy, there was a black guy, everybody was standing there. There's a whole group of people, and we were all, talk about helpless. That day was one of the most helpless days of my life, by the way. And I think for America, it was one of the most helpless days of their lives. Because we all watched him die. We watched him die. And not to take off topic, but I think, although the focus afterwards was we need to take care of the cops, it may have looked to the audience as we need to take care of the white cops. And I don't think that's what America was saying. I think America was pretty much, well, those of us that were BLM and supportive of anti-fascism, we're saying that just policing needed to change. But yeah.
And even though that incident happened right after, nothing didn't change in America because same thing was happening. Certain states they funded police, crime increased. Imagine that. I don't understand. Like, people saw what happened to George Floyd and they're still acting the same way.
Yeah.
On both sides.
You know, Lita points out that America's deliberately Lita's pointed out America has deliberately dumbed down the education of these people. That's part of it. Also, one of the things that happens in the U.S., just like everywhere else in the world, is folks in general are so busy taking care of their lives and their business and their families and all that stuff that taking care of that side of life falls to the wayside, falls to the extremists, which is why BLM and Antifa and all that stuff was so powerful during the COVID times, because nobody had a job to go to. So suddenly we could all focus in on something. And one of the things that's so astonishing and hurtful is that as soon as we all had to go back to work, we couldn't focus in on those things. And suddenly it seems like to the rest of the world that we're fickle.
Where is BLM, the organization? Where is BLM? You had an incident with Jordan Jelly that happened last week. Where was BLM after?
Oh, that's a funny and an interesting thing. And by the way, I want to point out that it's a very interesting thing that you just pointed out here. So BLM, Me Too, Believe All Women, Proud Boys, America First, all of these groups that were all founded around the same time that are on polar opposite ends, Antifa, they've all been dismantled, and taken apart at the seams, every single one of them, whether it be through cancellation or through finding out that the person who started them was disingenuous and grifting, or even BLM has had problems. And so it's one of these things to take into consideration now that doesn't make any of it look good, that's unforgivable to a larger, important issue. It looks bad to the outside world. You're telling me about this right now. So it looks bad to that's the message you're getting. Where are they? What happened to them? Exactly. And for us, we're having to move on with life. And although we're thinking this, it's literally like getting dragged into the future while looking back at the things we never finished for all of us. And I'd say for the bad guys, the good guys, and everybody in between.
Well, here what, right? Anytime any child finish high school in the Caribbean and that go to the States to study, you always want them to not get indoctrinated.
Oh, you may have to repeat the first portion, but I think I got the second portion, which is that we're starting to see the indoctrination happening.
Yeah, don't get indoctrinated when you go to the States. In any culture or any university in the States, don't get indoctrinated. That we just tell our young children when they go to college or university in the States, don't get indoctrinated.
Yeah, what he's saying, if the audience didn't hear him, is that he's suggesting that he's observing an indoctrination through schooling, and when you come here, that there's a lot of pressure to essentially fall into line in those things, and that the schooling is also doing it as well. And by the way, Lita was pointing that out. And I'm sorry, some other things. People Google Wikipedia. These people don't know how to research properly. Yes, Lita, that's a whole. Absolutely. Americans, I don't think people in general know how to research properly. They look at the first thing and then go, "Yep, that's what it is." If it mirrors what they want, right?
Yeah, because even today, I was seeing this thing up with this lady on City Bike.
Oh, the City Bike thing. Yes, that.
I seen I seen people like bashing the lady, but like now seeing like lady actually bought the city bike.
Yeah, the city bike is a
Like she had
great example. What a wonderful example
yeah,
of the jump to conclusion,
good,
Matt.
good jump to conclusion. Now, what I will see is a lot of news outlets and a lot of YouTubers might get sued.
Oh yeah, no, they're definitely going to get
Because
sued. And that's the other thing is that it's one thing to report on something with an alleged or a possible or a we aren't sure or we'll figure this out or I could be wrong. But it's a whole other thing to say racist and then leave it there, and act as if it's news. Whole other thing. And what a lesson for all those people.
also, you see this news group called the Young Turks, they might have fired one of their news anchors on Mr. Richie because he spoke about it, and the way how he spoke about it, it will seem like they might have to release him from his post in the Young Turks.
Yeah, it's definitely going to come back to bite them, and that the fact that they're the ones that pushed it around too. I mean, that's the other thing is
Also,
in the background. You guys can't see this, but there's information sharing in the background for content creators and amongst some of the folks that are newsworthy stuff, and that by the way in the Reddit, just so you know, and everybody in my chat, John, that was. Yo, that was so crazy. I'm sorry, James, my bad. King James.
Also, these other two people, Tyreek Nasheed and DL Hughley, they might get sued as well because they was pushing this thing about the nurse, so they might get sued. Really.
I'm sorry, I missed the last portion. They're pushing out what? Which what?
No, I said like you see like DL Hughley, the comedian, him, and this one called Tyreek Nasheed. He might get sued as well.
Yeah, no, he's there's a bunch of them that there's a whole lot more in the white. And so the guy I showed at the beginning of the program, I don't know if you caught him. There's a whole bunch of people that are essentially going to get at least a cease and desist warning or a takedown copyright. The ones that are going to get sued are likely Young Turk, because what they did, I won't bring up their video. I think they've already dumped it. It was salacious.
No, they didn't dump it. It's still on that Richie YouTube channel.
It's still up there. Oh no shit.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So one of the things that does happen in YouTube as well, and here's a question: is this even forgivable when some of these YouTubers do things that press their own material? Like, I don't know if you guys caught this, but this has become very popular. Some of these YouTubers like to say, like, oh, I have cancer. And then you never hear anything else about it. Zerka was pushing that he had leukemia. Now we don't know anything about Zerka's leukemia. And, it's like the old fake news things for 2 days, like Andy Tate, when he got out of prison, was telling everybody that he got poisoned. Because he felt ill and then never brings it back up again. And I think that some of these things are the manipulation you're talking about, are the indoctrination. We've gotten so used to taking this information that we don't look at it twice. And by the way, so this is something I'm really into and it bugs the hell out of me that I'm into it. It bugs other people. I was just doing it in the Discord, is following the information and doing the research. And Emily was asking what you were saying. Hopefully, Emily, I repeated enough. I believe I understood what it was being said, because the phone sometimes just does a little garble. But so indoctrination been going on the whole time, Emily says, and now the internet with cell phones spreads it even more. So yes, absolutely, the phone is spreading it, and part of this is that people will believe what they want to believe, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so tell me something in Trinidad. Is there anything you've noticed politically or socially that's been affected by this stuff? That what you used to be unforgivable but now isn't?
Well, okay. Well, here's Frank. We in Zambia, our law was created by the British, so we can adopted some of the laws from the British since we gained independence. So we started to create laws that would suit us up. with all citizens. And I realized that some of the laws that British had was a bit liberal.
So basically, you guys were
I believe-
creating morality laws at some point?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because at one point we used to do like death penalty. If you're a drug dealer or arms dealer, used to execute you. Or
Wow.
if you're a drug trafficker, we used to execute you.
Wow. So
And stop that.
how long has that been going on?
Well, the last execution was in 1990. I had 1992, but no, not 1992, about 1995, I think. That was the last execution.
Oh wow. Okay, so it's been
And that
so basically it's either
Um,
functioning really well or people have left it behind.
no, well, the government stopped it due to the fact that they said that the international court was saying we was breaking human rights. But when we had the death penalty, crime was low. Crime and some people want more death penalty, but that's how we stopped. Crime has increased.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, yeah, that's a thing. Okay, so you were bringing this up earlier is that and I would say that this is directly in line with the concept that we're talking about today, because where is this line of forgivability for ourselves? That the crime increases the more policing and more authoritarian rule you put down. As a result, strangely enough, across the planet, we see it in so many ways that when you start putting more morality, the only place that it seems to work, by the way, is in Arab countries where Muslim law or Muslim rule and belief systems tend to follow in line with the morality laws, so that makes sense. But it does tend to happen in Western countries where we have mixtures of belief systems and or religions and or basic social structures, less monolithics. That as soon as you put a law or a rule in front of us, there's a whole group of us that are going to turn around and be like, "Fuck that," So I mean, is that what you think that has gone down? Is that kind of the thing you're seeing?
Yeah. Yes. Because with that certain law of the penalty, you used to have like order. People who are afraid of doing certain things, but not people are not afraid.
So do you think this is a good thing, or do you think that this is just nature, or do you think that this is? What do you think about it?
I think the country would have been better if the death penalty was active.
So you believe that it needs to be changed essentially, and it should be made more effective.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand that, and that's so one of the interesting things, and I'll bring this back to like your perception or what we were talking about the U.S. is that so in the U.S. we have a general liberal sensitivity to this because there's so many different angles and people and views, and it's so wide ranging. Although I say this, one of the things that is very strange about our country is politically, we are kind of centrist and then to the right. We call ourselves liberals on the left, but we aren't. We don't have the parties of the Pirate Party. We don't have the Green Party. We don't have the Liberal Democrat. We don't. I mean, Liberal Christian Democrat, which is like in Western Europe, you have this like they're basically using Jesus' teachings as the paradigm, and it turns out it's very liberal, almost socialist, and then there's all sorts of different groups that we don't have. So we end up starting kind of somewhere in the middle or just below middle in this country. And
yeah, because if New York had like death penalty and Chicago had death penalty, you would see the crime decrease. Because once people is aware that if they certain crimes, you will get punished, especially crime will decrease in those cities by far.
so basically, he was just saying is that those cities have a different kind of population than that have a different representation, is what you're saying, basically.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yes.
that's a big deal in the U.S. in voting, by the way. So and people see like the country that's red, right? But and that's it's funny because by population, the whole of the country in the center, in the places where you see all the red and outside of the major cities, that has almost as many people in all of that red that you see as in all those major cities. So it tends to be that balances out the 48 or 50% towards the other 50%, which is, it's hard to tell outside of the country. And it really does look, when you look at the pictures, like, oh my God, the representation, there's so much more of the red, right? Well, that's mistaken because they only use that red. When you look at it by population, it turns into little tiny dots, like being in the jungle as compared to being in the major cities. But those major cities, they have a plethora of wide ideas in politics that end up being so widely representative that they don't speak for anybody else out there. And that is one of the dichotomies of the US, is how do we balance these things? What is the forgivable position? Where do we get to a spot where it's like, okay for everybody? And then when is our messaging, and what does our messaging, when do we allow the messaging to be palatable to others while still palatable to ourselves, and is that important? And is it a forgivable thing? And here's the question for you: is it a forgivable thing for America, for the U.S.? I say North, not America, but the United States. Is it a forgivable thing for us to have a message that is our own, so long as we're not shoving it down other people's throats? Is that forgivable? But even and as opposed to what you were talking about earlier, which is essentially you're getting hammered over the head with our message.
Hammered over the head.
Yeah. I mean, is it forgivable on either end?
It's forgivable.
You think so? How come?
No, it won't be forgivable. It won't be forgivable, though. It won't be forgivable. Because you may have not knowingly set a president to certain things, and most likely the population of America will not realize they set a president with these agendas until they realize, okay, I think we went overboard with this. How can we pull it back? But if you try to pull it back, you can't pull it back because you're also the president.
Understood. So what he was basically saying is that at some point, just like the last section where some people feel the wrong president won, or you can't change it back. These things are done. So the unforgivable position is that you can't get Pandora back in the box, which is understandable.
No, I can't.
And I can see from that position. One of the interesting things, by the way, what you may not know, is that this is not the first time in America's last 70 years where the vote was in question. It's just the first time ever that a small group of people tried to stop the process and undo that process, and then claim that the process, which is incredibly public, and like not just kind of public, it's like every single thing is super counted in public, it's because in the 1940s, when FDR was elected, there was a huge issue in the Democratic Party over who got voted in as president, and Herbert Hoover. Let me remember his name. He actually was supposed to be president, but FDR, who wasn't as well liked by the country, wheedled his way in, overturned the ballot during the Democratic convention, which pushed him into a place where he had not been basically campaigning at that point. So the ballots had to be changed afterwards. There's a very strange thing in American politics that happens. In this case, what happened next was when JFK was elected, and people tend to know about this one, is JFK's father provably dumped hundreds of thousands of votes and tens of thousands of dead people's votes into the Chicago and Illinois area, But it's more than that. There was influence and there was a lot of money passed around. So the American vote has been affected before, and knowingly so. This is the only time where the American vote was publicly done, very openly so, counted, and even more so reliably because we used a vote-in, which folks, mail-in, which folks would be like, oh, mail-in, you weren't there in person. Well, they don't check your ID when you come to vote in the United States. So there's nobody, they wouldn't know who you are anyways. All you got to do is have somebody's address. But when you send in the mail-in, that's been sent to your address, and you have to sign an authorization form that they actually match in a computer to your signature, which is why some of them get sent back or dropped. So there's a bunch of really interesting things that happened over history that caused us to do the things we're doing now. So it was really public. So when people were like, oh, the vote's wrong, because, a couple folks were trying to overthrow the election straight out. And then we have a lot of proof of that now. And we're going to see some real activity about that, by the way. I mean, it was basically a crime. It was until we do something about it, it will be in the minds of the rest of the world, like what you're thinking is a weak president, a weak position of the system. And until we actually do something about the fact that there's a group of people that tried to overthrow our country and then run into our capital, which is unforgivable. Don't even care what their politic was. They tried to run into our capital on the day of the vote. That's burning down our house. That's burning down everybody's house. Well, they do now. Yeah, they do now check the ID in Texas because of the different governors, which is, by the way, this is a whole thing that used to be get rid of the Electoral College. Yeah, I agree with you. I would totally get rid of the Electoral College. It is a leftover of a political system that really had to do with owning land. And there's a better check and balance than the Electoral College. It is the individual vote count, which... Yeah, if we wanted representatives, we should choose them for ourselves and out of a group just like we do in the vote and not just show up. Which, by the way, the Electoral College is something where most people are just showing up to these meetings. Because they show up to the meetings, they get picked for the Electoral College. Just so you know, it's about involvement. So I mean, this is another thing.
Yeah, but seriously, only different persons are Biden, because Biden, I don't think he should run again.
I tend to agree with you on there. The one major issue with that is the vacuum created by not having him run. When we don't have another strong, at least if you're a Democratic voter, there's no strong fill-in. Like, I would love to see Warnos run. What's that?
I don't want Kamala to run at all.
Yeah.
No one don't want Kamala to run.
It's a tough one. It would help get rid of special interest groups. But the problem is, what it would do is it let in the other special interest group that's on the other side, which is you've got Pence and Trump. I don't know if Trump's going to be actually eligible to be on the running this time, though. And that's a problematic thing.
But you have to realize that not much people has been wanting to run for Democrat president.
We do. We have a number of them. You're right. And you know what? It drives me nuts because there's been so many great voices that are coming up that are youthful, that are empowering, that are diverse, that are educated. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like Warnos would be a great. I'm sorry.
But they are afraid to run for president because they know that let's say they run for president, the people will take up the pass, and no one want to take up the pass. I mean, no one don't want them to.
It's a shitty job. It's true. They say that you actually have to be a bit of a psychopath to have that job, and I've seen it firsthand that you do need to be a special kind of brain. Like, you got to have a little bit of all those things that we don't like about people. I was actually having a discussion with somebody who, by the way, was really crazy and scary. This person was in government policy, and I got into a debate with them in a voice channel like this, and they suggested that their summary was that the position of the presidency was evil, and anybody who had that job was evil. And I was like, look, I've met 5 presidents. I've handed a microphone off to 5 presidents now. And first off, don't meet your heroes. I was a little bummed when I met Obama. He was aloof, and he sideways looked at me sideways. But whatever, he's the president. And then I really wanted to hang out with W. W was cool as hell. Like, that's the dude you go get a drink, you go bowling with W. You know, Bush Sr., scary. Like, that is an individual, like, you shake his hand and he says, "Hello, son, how are you doing?" And he's looking right through your soul. He knows everything about you, and he's somebody in his ear. That was Lizard Man, for sure. And, you know, I mean, like, so, you know, I mean, yeah, he was former CIA. He's a very powerful man. His vice president shot somebody while hunting. You know, I mean, like, very powerful people. Clinton, greasy, nice guy, but boy, he was, "Hey, son, how you doing?" You know. In any case, the point being is that they're humans. They're humans, and so they're not malicious. They're in a job where you have to have a specialty skill and a special mindset. And I would say, in this case, that's forgivable, because their bad behaviors aren't really bad behaviors. They're behaviors that are caused by the position itself. And you know, I stress to the audience and urge the audience to think about these things. What you're bringing up is some great points, by the way, and a great perspective, as far as like having a different perspective.
You should run for president.
I'm sorry?
You should run for president.
I mean, you may have to say that one more time a little louder, because
You should run for president.
Oh, thank you, sir. I would never get there. I wouldn't even get to local office. They'd pull me up and be like, and this is what would happen. I'd be like, and then I'd fade off into the distance. This is literally what would happen. That's what they do to me. They'd fade me out. Only because in this country, they expect, and this is part of the issue in our politic, by the way. We expect people to be overtly perfect. And although I would absolutely run for office in the local, I would actually run for local office, because I think that our communities and our counties tend to be where all of our work actually gets done for the larger society. So I'd be more apt to run for like county board or something like that. But the thing is the unrealistic systems might as well be red-pilled. I think that our political system was red-pilled, frankly, before our men were red-pilled. And the reason is because our political system expects politicians who are just, they got to be kind of a terrible human being in some sense right now. They expect.
Like Ilhan.
I'm sorry?
Like Ilhan Omar.
Yeah, I mean, like, you have to have a bit of a sketchy behavior. You have to have a bit of an ability to deal with people that other folks would be like, "I won't deal with that person." You also have to have a Machiavellian mindset, which that's a bit, you know, psychopathic. You know, but without those things, you can't get to a high office. You really can't. You have to be a politician, and a politician could be Machiavellian, or even if you're altruistic, you still have to have all those real cunning capabilities.
Egomaniac. That'd be a complete egomaniac as well.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's true. You do have to have connections that are not so savory, and it's these things that when you look at politicians in our country, we have an unrealistic sense that they need to be perfect, that they somehow have to have some unforgivable behavior. You know, which is why Pence does so well with a good portion of the public, because he's just a robot. He doesn't do anything. We're lucky that man breathes. You know. And many of these folks are unrealistic. I would love for our politics to become realistic. And that's one of the things that our system doesn't have in it, is a realism. So we aren't forgivable. We aren't forgiving of our politicians at all. One is because it's important, but two, because we think as a nation, and we put this out to the rest of the world, that everybody's got to be perfect, while we're just effing up and effing up and effing up and leaving a track. I'd say, which is, I often compare us to teenagers. What do you think about that?
Scary.
Why is it scary?
I want to know. No, scary is one. Repeat the last thing you said.
Yeah, sure. What was scary is what, you know, whether or not, yeah, we do have to remove the money aspect. we've got to. I'm sorry. Emily points out we do have to remove the money aspect, and what's problematic in all of this is that we essentially expect people to be perfect when we know they're not gonna be, and we put those people that we perceive as more perfect into office because they're more forgivable or less, they're untouchable, we believe. But then you end up with somebody who may be well-meaning, like Ilhan Omar, but she says a bunch of ridiculous shit that make it unforgivable. So she can't even do her job.
True.
So the reality is where in our system can we start to forgive each other and ourselves to be fallible humans? This is the question of the day. It really is, what do we consider the line? And that line, if depending upon which group you talk to, is all over the fucking place, by the way, James.
True. That is true.
And this is where I'm having this conversation, and I put this out there, and I don't have a solution. Normally for these shows, I have a solution picked out. I have a solid answer.
But you don't have a solution. Nobody don't have a solution to it because it is because people are divided.
Yes. And it's more than just divided, because that suggests two sides. I'd say fractionalized, disenfranchised even.
Yeah. Let me show you an next example.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Goodness gracious, if that's not the best example. And I was just somebody was asking me today to provide proof that Brian and his cohorts on that side, left side of the table, are somehow white, nationalist involved and such like that, and or Christian-based white nationalists. And I'm like, I live 40 miles away from the dude. That whole entire scene is...
The blonde girl, she worked for Temple.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
The blonde girl, she worked for Temple.
Yes, exactly. Work for Tim Pool. Exactly. All of that stuff is part of that group that they espouse these things, but they don't do it in a way that is so obvious like it used to be. And now they've learned that people wanted them to be obvious, so now they're not. So, by the way, the messaging of what you're watching on the show is essentially fracturing its own audience with a 1984 style, and I call them Ing socks, because they're basically, if you look, they've got military insignias based off of which level of the membership on that show. So he's building a little army.
More like 50s style, not 40s, 50s style.
Yep, 100%. Pre-sexual revolution, much less the fact that they're pushing anti-sex, anti-sexuality, anti-19th Amendment, which is the background. By the way, King James, I'm wondering if you've noticed, and I don't know if you know what the 19th Amendment is, but there's a lot of this push of the anti-19th Amendment that women don't need to vote. They aren't getting, the idea that they're pushing is, and by the way, this is an unforgivable right here because it's disingenuous to what they're saying. But there's a lot of push to say, oh, well, women don't need to vote because they're not getting put into the army. They're not getting, drafted. There's no draft anymore, so we don't have to, these women want to give up their right to vote. Well, here's the thing that most people don't understand about the amendments. If you take away the 19th Amendment, every other amendment afterwards that is built on top of it, that is utilized and made because of the amendment previously, well, that makes civil rights go away. All the voting rights. That makes gay marriage go away. That makes personal liberty go away. That makes the gold standard come back. That makes, you talk about some stuff that's insane, that's being right under the agenda of all these folks on the dating podcast. It doesn't seem like much, but they're all pushing this stuff, just like Tim Pool pushes it. And I'm glad you brought him up because I've yet to go into Tim Pool, but I've got a whole bunch of video of him, and I want to find the right topic where he just falls over himself. There was one a week ago I almost did. But too many other people covered it, and I don't like. Even if I don't know if you folks notice, I don't like covering what everybody else is covering. And in fact, I brought up the iDubbbz thing because iDubbbz, only white gamers know this guy. Maybe Irrelevance knows him. FD Signifier definitely knows him. But that's because he watches those things. But the point I'm making is that nobody outside that white gamer world knows who iDubbbz is. But we all should, because what he was doing was unforgivable. He was dropping the N-bomb, telling white kids to drop the N-bomb, telling them it's nothing, being cruel to people, using gamer tech language to really screw with people and hurt people. He hurt people. He was telling people to start boxing clubs. Unforgivable, in my opinion. At the same time, people don't know who he is, but everybody knows who Nick Fuentes is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody.
But I don't know Nick Fuentes was Italian.
Yeah, isn't that weird? Hispanic and Italian. But you know what? That's been a thing in the United States is there's been so much need for tribalization amongst people and acceptance that we, just like the shooter that was inspired by Nick Fuentes just recently, who his story is just, as somebody, I looked at his actual manifesto. I was shown his manifesto. And from his page, I actually turned a number of people onto his page, and then it was shared with me because I won't go that far into the darkness. I'll let people that do that for professional do that, and then share it with me back. But so I was.
But I had to go just now, though. I had to come off just now because I had to go out just now.
Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate you being on, King James. And by the way, you're welcome back anytime. You have a different point of view. And as you know, we may not agree on all these things, but I appreciate your voice, and I appreciate that you have a different perspective.
Yeah. Oh, and one more thing. Hello?
Yes, sir. Hello? You're here.
Yeah. One more thing. I remember what I was talking about this guy, Mike TV.
Oh, were you gonna bring up some smoke?
Yeah. Not smoke, but if you Google Oregon versus Michael Lane, if you go on Google, type in Oregon versus Michael Lane Jr., his case will come up.
Yeah, the junior, by the way, is he's not Michael isn't a junior, so that's a different person. The Lane person is correct, but he's not a junior. So the junior person actually does have a white dad. So that's how you know the information actually came from my honeypot, is that Michael isn't a junior. And also his middle name is something different too. But that's one of those things that I keep seeing come up, and I'm just like, oh no, that's my fault. That's my fault because I was doing something that I was like, nobody's ever gonna come after this. And sure enough, and boy, by the way, James, that's one of the weirder things that's happened in my life, is set up a honeypot on a computer that, because I've been getting like little DDoSs, and I set it up on this computer that I do the transmission through, where it's just the computer. And that was the only file on the computer, is information that by the way, somebody said fractured Christian-based white nationalism makes sense. Fix it, Jesus. Yes. I thought we'd get lucky, but I was wrong. Lita says, no. Lita, I actually welcomed them up today. I did welcome them up because we were talking about forgiveness or levels. And I don't want to deflect here.
And was he like letting you talk?
I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. I apologize.
No, I'm saying when you're speaking to my TV, was he allowing you to speak?
Oh yeah, well he and I talk separately, individually. Like he's definitely, like I do call him, I have his number, we information share and such, and I'll tell you, behind the scenes, just like me, he is a slightly different character because he's performative. So he does let me talk. And part of this show, by the way, and I'll explain this, I explain this on my show, we don't talk about it on his show, and I tend to have to explain this in the Discords a lot, because people really, let me tell you something, if you think that you may not like the way he's performative, you should hear the white folks in Discord. But I'll tell you what, for Americans, for those in the FBA community, it is cathartic to hear somebody deal with these things in a way that they may have not heard said in the ways he says it, and actually getting action out of the scenario. And for somebody who in their real life is so active in his community, I'm amazed at how well his business actually does. I'm really amazed at how folks have taken this one narrative and just decided that's him. And it's forgivable, because you couldn't see it if you didn't know the things I know, or you didn't, and so I can only tell you what I can tell you, and people are going to believe what they want to believe, but I can tell you that from my view, somebody who can call him up right now and he'll answer the phone, or unless he's working, I've asked him about all these things. And he's pretty honest with me about everything. I think there's things that, of course, that are none of my business.
Oh, witness, so the whole situation, like the Veronica, with Veronica, that is just all hoax.
I only caught portion of that, but yeah. Before I even spoke to him or had his number, by the way, I went and looked this stuff up because it's public. And I had seen it on other things because I went up on the channel, and then we started talking backstage, and then we exchanged some emails. So I went looking because I actually was also doing something slightly different in addition to all this. I had a side gig where I was collecting information about a certain number of individuals for a colleague of mine to do a report on, which is coming out apparently at the end of June. It should come out. But I'm no longer involved with that because of the threats against my life. And something separate happened in the Discord community that I was addressed very, very face front by, let's say, a sartorial shooter. And somebody came up to me knowing what I was doing, just collecting information, because I'm not like reporting. I just was following dots. I was given a dossier, I have a couple people to follow. So I came on YouTube to watch because of my background in this platform. But then I saw people doing real nasty shit to other people, unforgivable stuff, and affecting the way people were thinking and affecting people's lives. Like that show you pointed out, whatever. I always talk about that. And then I found Mike. So I was already skeptical of everybody and what they were doing. But when I looked at him in detail, beyond just what people are seeing pressed around by that group that wants him to stop doing what he's doing, the same group who DDoS's me, the same group who DDoS Jason Black, the same group who attacked one of their own red pillars, as far as they thought he was a red pillar. It's complicated. It's a complicated channel, got physically attacked. The same night my DDoS went down, that same night they took that file. That same night that they took down Jason Black, that same weekend that they invited Mike to a panel with a whole bunch of people that had been on Just Pearly Things. It's just crazy. It's organized. And so when I tell you this, I would suggest to the audience that anything you hear about folks, not to say that it might or might not be true, either direction, take it with a grain of salt, because if you're hearing negative speech out of a whole group of folks that are getting taken down by our actions, I would make the only point that their channels are getting taken down, not ours. And if we were doing something wrong, ours would be taken down as well, because YouTube doesn't play that.
Okay.
Just so you know, and especially when it comes to criminal activity, they'll allow some things, but when it comes to real criminal activity, all it takes is a letter, an email, and they take care of stuff. And my example is Akil is Tupac. Tupac is Akil, my friend Akil, the J5MC. I don't know if you know this, but one of the first things I did, you can go back, I did a 3-part series, which was way too long. It's like 9 hours long. I need to go back and edit it. Where I did an interview with Akil, and I was an engineer for the DPG, for the Dog Pound Gang. I knew and had Tradee's phone number. For years I called him and talked with him. I was in the back of a tour bus with Snoop for a long time. I got hired by, I knew these people. I knew Nate. I never met Tupac, but they all mourned his death. And my friend, Dave Aaron, was Tupac's best friend. And Dave missed Tupac like nobody even understands how bad Dave Aaron missed Tupac. That man loved him. Really cared about him as his best friend. And they came up together, both homeless, basically, at one point in L.A. Tupac slept in the back of Dave's car for a period of time. So there's this whole thing where people don't believe that Tupac's dead. And the reason I bring this up is because, one, YouTube was very allowable to have that up for years, and hundreds of thousands of watch hour time and millions of watch hours, much less the fact there was 3 different channels using Akil's likeness without his permission, and much less the fact that it all comes from a crazy person. And so, point being, the reason why I've gone on this tangent is to say that that until we said, yo, there's IP, intellectual property being stolen, and watch hours and time being suppressed for Akil's channel because of this lie, and Akil's life is in jeopardy because of this lie, YouTube didn't care. So it's up to the audience to do something. So when the audience does, YouTube responds because they don't want anything to do with it. And Tommy, or whatever his name is, Tommy, audience, tell me what his name. Anyways, the person that Mike just took down just recently, who put up his channel again, who got that channel taken down, YouTube made a new rule about it. So when I point this out to the audience, I say this because if Mike is really doing something wrong, well, report it. And if they do something about it, then you're right. But I would say, at this point in time, the information that everybody's talking about has been out for quite a while. And YouTube knows about it. And like myself, I'm sure they've looked at it. Just like we all have. But, Sotomayor. Thank you, Emily. Yeah, thank you, Tommy Sotomayor. Or Tariq. Or Pearly Things. Or, which, by the way, Pearly Things is a great example. Like, she got hundreds of community strikes that we sent her. But because they weren't sure of our motives, I'm sure, they didn't take her channel down. They just made her take the videos down. So there's stuff like that goes on. And if you want to talk about interpersonally about trusting somebody, I would say that I will always trust a self-admitter and allow them their grace of forgiveness if they haven't really hurt people. Now, mind you, I have also been friends with people that hurt people. But I was only friends with them because they were essentially reformed and creating apologies. So at that point, it's no longer for me to forgive them. It's for the families of the people they hurt. And my association with them is a matter of grace. Now, acknowledging that they did hurt someone, that is also a portion of it, that you can't individually forgive them for that. But I personally would say, are they kind now? That's me. So.
Okay.
To each their own.
But anyway,
I know you got to go, and we're keeping you. You can drop down at any time. So there's a button. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but if you scroll down at the bottom of the image, you'll see a button that lets you disengage. There. It took me a minute.
Okay.
Yeah. It took me a minute when I was doing Discord. I'm like, how do I get out of here? Just staying in the rooms for hours going. Thank you so much, King James, for being here. I appreciate you.
You take care.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much. If I need to boot. Oh, no, he figured it out. Good deal. All right, folks. And that's, is that conversation forgivable? I know we went a lot of different places. I know we covered a lot of topics that may have been shocking. And I opened my platform to somebody who had a different point of view. And I would urge the audience to have a conversation like this and give the forgiveness, to open ourselves up to the bad behaviors that we might ourselves express because of whatever. Now, there are things that we should ask ourselves about these lines of whether or not we need to be stepping forward. And that's what brings me to the lesson of the day and what lessons they are. I think that sets the mood. Come on over to the corner. You know what's up. Hi. Where is the rest of me? Oh, there I am. Hi. So what did we learn today? Well, I think first and foremost, we found out that forgiveness and the line of what's right and wrong becomes an individual idea that we all have to share. It was forgivable. I was hoping he didn't mention Mike. Yes, well, I expected it. I was surprised it took that long, to be frank with you. It was great. Love hearing from people. Me too. I like hearing different perspectives. I like talking to them. We can all have a agreeable conversation by agreeing to disagree sometimes and apologize by allowing the grace of forgiveness. And I think we forget this, but the thing we don't know, and I'm still unclear about, and I think we will be forever, is that forgiveness looks different to each and every person. That these lines of boundary look different to each and every person. Now, is this a an unreasonable position? Maybe. I'm still in quandary about it. I'm still in wonder. I still don't know what the fuck to think. Because, like I said, I don't have a solution. This is a day I didn't come with a solution. Why? Because I don't think there is one. I think this is a moving scale. I think this is based off of what we see in the world and our response to this. And I think what is forgivable today may not be tomorrow, and then again the day afterwards forgivable again. Which is why, in a confusing fashion, I will say maybe it's time to start forgiving ourselves first and allow for the fallibility of oneself for all of us to move forward. But what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, first off, I saw Emily. I saw Alita. Who else did I see? Let me scroll up and find out. Hold on. Who else did I see today? I saw King James all the way from Tobago, where I wasn't initially, but then I was once after the Mandela effect, but that's a whole other story. We also learned that, who else did I see? I saw, wait, he was here earlier. I saw Moby Zhuge. I saw Kaylin James. I saw Michael Haley. Thank you all for being here, and I appreciate you being in the house. It's nothing better than having an awesome house of intellectual and thoughtful people who are here to learn something and to share something and to be part of the show and part of the conversation. So what else did we learn? Well, we learned that there's a wide range of unforgivable. What's happening, Jacob? I saw Jacob as well. Thank you for being here, Jacob. And now that I know that the Discord works pretty well, that's the way we're going to be doing this from now on. Cool. How neat. I'm going to end up with a lot of people in my Discord server. What's happening, Jacob? Thank you for joining us. Hopefully I didn't curse too much today. But I think this was a valuable conversation. I think we heard some different point of views, and although it was meandering, I think what we expressed was that people can forgive each other for their differences. But we can't forgive hurting one another. But we can allow for a bit of grace. And what is that grace? It's not Grace Kelly. No, it's the room to be you. And that room to be you, that's important, right? He's got to get the shout out. Come on. He's got his priorities straight, Lita. No. Come on, Jasmine. He got his priorities straight. He's stopping in like, yeah, let me just throw up the... Peace! I'm out. No, he knows how to Irish out, too. He just totally pulled the Irish in and out. He's like, yo, I'm out. It's fine. It's fine. You're raising a good man there. And that's another lesson. That we raise better humans by giving them the grace, right? That we don't end up with entitled folks who will scream and yell and demand that they have something that they never earned. That forgiveness. The bad behavior is expressed, though. So that line that we draw, it's about pain. It's about suffering. It's about intent. And although we don't know the intent of what's inside someone's mind, I think the next lesson is that we can see the actions of others. We can see what's important in the behaviors. And that proves intent. And that may be where the line of available forgiveness and grace can be. So maybe that is kind of a solution, but it's an individual one, and I can't set it for you. So next time, and I think this is the next lesson, I think that next time that I, or any of us, get into a conversation of what is and what should be, we make sure there's grace. We make sure there's forgiveness. We make sure there's a sense of allowance for each other to fuck up and be imperfect. Because none of us, not one of us, has it all figured out. I mean, I know I don't. And I've seen a lot of the world. I've had a lot of love. I've had a lot of fun. I've done a lot of wild things. I've looked death right in his clear, see-through eyes. Or hers. It's. And I don't know. All I know is that when I'm hurt, and how badly I'm hurt, that's how I know of what is forgivable and what's not. And that is still a gray area, because depending upon how you hurt me, it might be forgivable if you apologize. But if you stab me, do I not bleed? Yes. You stab me, I'm not gonna forgive you. This is not Robespierre. If you attempt to usurp me, I will not forgive you. That's bad behavior. If you hurt others and intend to hurt others and do it flagrantly, I do not forgive you. I will move on, and I will do my best, actually, to usurp your authority from that point. Me personally. I don't urge that for others, but I speak truth to power. And most importantly, and the lesson I think we can all take, is that what is right for one may not be right for another, but that we need to give the grace to allow for those things to be heard and come to a center ground that represents the largest portion, not just some, or the mob, or the loudest voice, but the largest representative message. Let's go back over here. So at the end of the day, the only thing that can be asked of anybody is to be vigilant, to give a damn, and when all is said and done, my friends, we communicate. We care. We do something more than less. Even in our confusion, we listen to one another. We give the grace. I could have attacked King James. I could have been like, no, you're wrong. Let's argue. But that's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're doing. We're trying to find a middle ground between us all. And that middle ground may not even be middle. It may not even be middle. It is just representation. Because representation has the red and the blue, the yellow and the pink, the purple and the green, the black and the white, brown, gray, silver, amber, azure, le rouge, Congo blue. You name it, the whole spectrum's involved. Whether one likes it or one doesn't. We are relegated to the planet we live on, to the tribes we live amongst. And I and you and we are here to free ourselves from a mental prison that is encapsulated by these concepts, that holds us down to this place, that keeps us locked into a minimal scope of living. So take my hand and reach out yours to your neighbor. Because here is where we recognize that the cage door of these ideas, it's open. And I've got the sledgehammer of mirth right here. We can take this whole thing down. And you know what it's called? The obelisk. It's a funnel that takes all of our lives and sends it up to a ben that's separated from it, that takes all the resources away. Our sensibilities, our up and down, our left and right, our spirits and our happiness, our equality and our equilibrium. And I think that there's nothing more important than us having a free sense of self to express ourselves and to have this conversation in itself. But we can't have it. We're stuck inside that prison throwing Michael's bedazzled covered poopy out of a can we've been shitting in at our neighbors, no less. So give the grace and let's find a better ground. Let's find a conversation that we can have between us that can come to some conclusion for the greater good. Not just the good of some, but the greater good. Because without that, we cannot step outside the funnel, the obelisk, and do what I urge the audience to do every show, every time. And I think you know what I'm about to say, right? Thank you, Lita. This is one of my favorite grooves in here. So as we head out the door, and I urge you all to extend that grace to your neighbors and to the people around you and your family and even the people you don't know who have a completely differing viewpoint and opinion who you may otherwise want to argue with. Folks, I ask you one and only thing, and you know what that is. It's very simple. Look out! Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you all. You all make the world go round, and you keep my world interesting, and you give me somebody to talk to, so that's even better. So I appreciate you, and thank you so much. Make sure that you like and subscribe if you haven't already, and that like button is so important to keeping us out in the algo. And if you're familiar with it or not familiar with it, there is a show on Sunday called the Ministry of the Flying Pig. And the ministry is oh so important when it comes to freeing ourselves and freeing our minds, because it's just silliness. It's a Dadaist ministry. It means very little religiously, and it means a lot to our spirits being lifted on a Sunday by me basically being as inane and idiotic and sharing cartoons and silly, positive, reinforcing ideas, because that's what the Flying Pig is all about. Living a life that we free on the weekend, forgetting the week's troubles. So this has been AronMSound. I appreciate you all. Don't forget, there's also Eva, the AI stories on Twitch starting at 9 tonight, in just an hour, which is the other side. You get to see all the stuff you don't get to see. Thank you so much for being here, and I appreciate you looking up. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Be kind to your friends. Be kind to your loved ones. Be kind to the world.